It's the Hoffman Show on a Friday. What's up? What's happening? Welcome in. I am Greg Hoffman. He is Anthony Haney. And we are ready to go on this here Football Friday where we are loaded up. Damon Amendolara will join us live coming up in just over 25 minutes. DA has a particular, obviously knows everything NFL, but particularly the Giants being based up in New York. So we will get our preview continuing with him. We will continue to talk about this game amongst ourselves. Logan Paulson's thoughts are later in the show. We also later in the show have a WNBA champion today, so that's a fun way we'll end it. But Anthony Haney, it is a Football Friday where we always start off by asking what is at stake for the Commanders on Sunday. So I'll let you get first crack at it, sir, with the fresh haircut, by the way. I see that.
You see it, Craig?
I see that.
You see it?
I do. Nice, clean fade on that.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Clean Fade. What's its not keys to the game? We'll get to how they get there in a second. But when you think of they win, it means what? They lose, it means what? What's at stake on Sunday?
So I would start off by saying if we get Forbes in this game, I think it's going to be a good opportunity for him to, get warmed up, have a full reset under him before possibly, heading into the Eagles matchup. So I'm just looking for some growth and development on his, side of things. I just don't think you go from benching a guy to, allow him to play and then going back to benching him. So I think if he gets some reps in this game right here, it's just going to be a good opportunity to, get his feet back up under him. And outside of that, I think this is a game where we're also looking at the growth and maturity of Sam Howell. We know Wink Martindale loves to blitz and get out the young quarterbacks. So I think it's going to be super important for Sam Howell to, go through his progressions. And even before his progressions, look at, the defense pre-snap, analyze what's going on, who's moving, who's coming from wherever on the defense. So I think this is going to be a good test for Sam to see if he's learned from, the preseason, if he's learned from Arizona, if he's learned from the Bears, teams that, were successful in, sending people off the edge and getting to them. So looking for a lot of growth from our young players.
Yeah, I think that's good. I'm going to scope out even further for the team as a whole for a second.
Yeah.
This Giants team is, let's be honest, they're not very good. They are, especially on the offensive side of the football, they are a bad unit. And they are a bad unit that's not very good to begin with, and they are super banged up. I mean, they are 4 guys that would probably start for them on the offensive line this week are going to likely be out of this game, if not all 5 starters. And also, where is Daniel Jones? He's technically questionable. So Jones might still play at quarterback. But John Michael Schmitz, the rookie they drafted at center, and there's their starting center, is out. Andrew Thomas, out. Their star left tackle, the one really good offensive lineman they have. Shane Lemieux, who's one of their key backups that would be starting, tore his biceps in practice this week, is out for the season. He's on IR. And then today in practice, Evan Neal, who has an ankle injury, goes DNP Wednesday, limited participation yesterday, DNP today. Their right tackle, he's questionable for Sunday.
And then also their backup left tackle, the guy that was starting in place of Andrew Thomas, he's also out as well.
Yeah, Peart, I think is his name. Peart, Perth, something like that.
Yeah.
They're in a bad way on their offensive line. And so if you can't figure out how to beat this team, it feels very Bearsy. I do think, again, there is a very distinct path for the Giants. And the problem was for Washington against the Bears is there was one distinct path, give up a ton of explosive plays, and that's exactly what they did. Here, the path is your offense turns the ball over. I don't have a mute button at home. That's not a fine. I'm just saying. I don't have a mute button at home.
The effort was there. I saw
I got my sneeze away from the microphone the best I could. I felt it. Could you tell that I felt it coming on?
Yes.
Yeah, that was rough. The point is that I need to buy a mute button for home. That's what it is. No, but if you let the pressure from Martindale get to you when your offense is on the field and Sam becomes a turnover machine, or they just simply can't operate because of a bunch of sacks and pressure, like, that's the only way the Giants win. So as a team, I want to know what's at stake is a maturity really from the coaching staff to come together and play complementary football. If you know the one way we lose is if our quarterback takes a bunch of sacks and or the pressure results in a bunch of turnovers, and you can't figure out as a staff how to limit that, that's a problem. You've got to mitigate risk, because if you play a C-plus offensive game, you should win this game 17-0, if not more. Like, seriously, that's how bad it is offensively for New York right now. And so I think also, you know, if you say what's at stake a little bit more pointedly for some of the players involved, like Chase, Montez, Duran, John, like, you got to go to town. And I think for Jack, you know, we talked about this earlier in the week, just because their offensive line is bad, it's probably really tempting to just bring 4 all the time. I wouldn't do that. I would come out super pressure heavy, 5, 6-man pressures with relative consistency, especially on third down. I mean, I would do it on first and second down, frankly, as well, because they're going to want to run the football, and like, I'm run blitzing the crap out of them. And, you know, you run blitz on the way to the quarterback, you stop the run on the way to the quarterback, and if they don't hand the ball off, that's going to be a 5 or 6-man pressure for them that they're going to have to deal with. And I know there's some high risk there, and there's a little bit more variance of like, okay, well, if we take guys out of coverage, and Wan'Dale Robinson, for instance, is like a super shifty, very talented wide receiver. You can't, like, they have weapons, and Barkley, if he gets in space and gets loose, like, there is risk there.
Got Waller.
But I'm making sure that I get home early, start to rattle them, and then maybe I can sit back a little bit more and just let my front 4 pin your ears back. But how do you make them one-dimensional? What's at stake here is the ability to take a team that you are better than, that you should have the ability to shape the game, and prove that you're not mature enough to do it. Like, it is a big test of the maturity of, and in some ways, like, this was also what I said before Chicago, but there was always the caveat of it's Thursday night football and weird stuff happens, and it turns out that Thursday night, like, they Thursday night football all over themselves. Today, or going into Sunday, I should say, that's not there. Like, you need to show up, be the better team that you are, confront your nightmares that are MetLife Stadium, potentially confront your nightmare that is Daniel Jones, and do the damn thing, because you are a better football team. How do they do that? That is the next question we always tackle on a Friday. That's what's at stake, brought to you by Anthony.
Nobody.
And coming up next are Keys to the Game, also brought to you by
nobody.
That's next on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, and always live as well on the free Odyssey app. It's Hoffman Show on the team 980. We have our keys to the game now. Commanders and Giants on Sunday, and then Damon Amendolara joins the show coming up at 4:30. Also, again, Take Command, 5 o'clock. Logan Paulson takes a deeper dive into how the Commanders can take advantage of some of the weaknesses of this Giants team and prevent the one or two strengths they have from being the things that bring them down. I'll start with the keys to the game, Anthony. And I'm going to start with Nick Gates as the key commander kind of on Sunday. I think more so than anyone else, it's on, and we have this lesson from last year. Like, remember the Kayvon Thibodeau sack on Heineke last year?
Yep.
Where they slide the line the wrong way? Mm-hmm. Like, it's on Nick Gates, who, by the way, is a former Giant and has practiced against this Wink Martindale defense a lot and been in a lot of meetings where they've talked about the varying things that are getting done to them by Wink Martindale defenses all training camp long, for instance. He's got to get that right. And it's hard. It's really hard. But ultimately, this is why he's playing over Ricky Stromberg, right? Stromberg is drafted in the 3rd round. If you're putting them in drills, like, are they the same guy? Yeah, they're pretty similar. Like, Stromberg can go out there. He can make the blocks. He's not super mobile. Neither is Gates. Like, probably is. Maybe Stromberg's even the better blocker. I don't know. I don't have that kind of one, access, and 2, capacity to break down offensive line play. But what you have in a veteran center, even a youngish veteran like Gates, who's in his late 20s, is the know-how and the institutional knowledge to make the line calls. And if they're going to bring, like, basically what Wink Martindale does philosophically, I'm going to get super big picture here. But Wink Martindale studies how other teams protect. Like, so most defensive coordinators, it's like, here's our blitzes, this is what we run, we're going to own what we do. Martindale, kind of week to week, says, this is how this offense likes to protect. How do we take their rules, which we can figure out via tape study, and use them against them? So we know if we overload the left side and they're going to slide the line that way, we can get a line call to slide left and then sneaky bring a blitz off the right. So, like, that kind of stuff, simulated pressure is kind of the term in vogue for this, where you might not even, or for simulated, you're only still bringing the same number of guys that wouldn't make it really a blitz. You're bringing 4, maybe 5, right? But you're bringing the number of guys that the offensive line expects, but from places they don't. So you get that line slide left, maybe you only bring 4 guys, but if you can get a 3-on-2, because you got 5 guys on the line, you get a 3-man slide to the left, and you bring 1 guy from the left and 3 guys from the right, now you got a free runner. And so it's on Nick Gates, and this is actually quite funny because another thing that's kind of in the spotlight right now is this new Amazon Prime broadcast. Have you seen this, Anthony, where they can identify with AI the blitzers before they're coming?
Whoa, that's actually insane. No.
I was reading an article on it today. Ted Nguyen wrote it for The Athletic, but based off of a bunch of different factors, this AI learning model has actually, like, been able to pick up blitzes that some of the people working on it, who was like, one of them's like a former offensive lineman at Stanford for Andrew Luck, like, he had to text his boss and be like, the model beat me. There was like a nickel blitz that came that he didn't see coming, and the AI model was like, hey, that guy's a potential blitzer. They thought they had an error, and then the guy blitzed. So, like, Nick Gates needs to be that AI model and be able to see through the disguises, understand what Wink is trying to do, and get these line calls so that Sam has time. And this is an area where, despite the sack numbers, the offensive line has been very good. They have done a good job all year of giving Sam time. The problem is Sam hasn't always used that time, and he's often then tried to escape the pocket and, run into sacks, and that's why the sack numbers are very high, and that is why that is a QB-driven stat. The one area, though, where I think they have at times struggled, probably on like a league average level because everyone struggles to pick up blitzes, is against the blitzes. There have been free runners, whether it's blitz, simulated pressure, whatever it is, and it is on Nick Gates to make sure that the line calls are correct. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do, including Sam. Hey, man, you might be hot here. Get the ball out. Gibson, Robinson. If you're you got to know when to stay in. This is another part of protection. As a running back, sometimes the best thing you can do to help in protection is get the hell out of there. Go give your quarterback an easy outlet. Other times it's stay in and take one in the face. And so, Nick Gates' understanding of that and ability to execute that well, combined with some play calling stuff we can talk about with EB, is the biggest key to the game, because that's the way the Giants steal a pick six, steal a sack, fumble, touchdown, get good field position because Tressway doesn't at least get to punt the ball away. Not to mention, it protects their back end from Terry McLaurin having a big day or Jahan getting on track or whatever other things the Commanders would like to try to accomplish offensively.
I mean, I love it. Again, that's more so what I pointed out in the stakes of the game, just allowing Sam Howell to grow, because we already know what Wink loves to do. I would say my key to the game is definitely on the defensive side of the ball, and it's more so just stopping Saquon. Last week we had a dynamic running back in Bijan Robinson, and we all know what he can do. We've seen him, shake people out of their shoes. We've seen the one-handed catch, no look, behind the back. We've seen all of that. And just as electric as he is, we held him to 13 rushes for 37 yards. So the Giants, we know they go as Saquon goes, and it's just going to be ultimately up to, that front four, even the linebackers as well, to, limit what Saquon can do and will do. So I think if we take him out of the game, limit him. I love the single package. I think that had a huge factor in, limited Bijan and the Falcons' rushing attack all last week. So I would definitely expect to see that a little bit more. And also it just allows us to, be able to rush 5 when we do have that single package out there. So I would definitely lean on the front four. And then also this is an offense that hasn't scored an offensive touchdown since week 3. So it's more so don't let us be their get-right game. And I think that's been consistent, every game for real. For, the teams we've played have come into the game last in sacks, and somehow, some way they've gotten right against us. So I just don't want that to be the same thing with us, more so on the defensive side of the ball, because the sacks come on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, the Saquon point is a good one. I do my hit with DC News Now on Fridays. We tape that before the show. It airs tonight at 11 o'clock. And then they also asked me for their Saturday show, 3 keys to the game. And the first one I said was limit Saquon. Yeah. Can you make, and it's of course it's limiting Saquon himself. And that's a guy that can do damage. Hey, do not let Saquon score. Cool. Good analysis, Craig. But really what it is too, is that it gets New York one-dimensional.
Yep.
And if you can make them one-dimensional, this is where the two sides of the ball come together. If you can, last week, start hot. If you tell me you can have one good half offensively, do you want to be the first half or the second half? I want it to be the first half.
For sure.
Now I would like 2 good halves offensively. That would be a very neat trick.
Yes.
But I would prefer it to be the first half, because then the Giants have to get out of running the football. They got to drop back Tyrod Taylor, presumably, behind this very bad offensive line.
Yep.
And Chase Young and Montez Sweat and Duran and everybody can just pin their ears back and go. I do think the Cinco package is probably going to make some heavy appearances, especially you have an inexperienced O-line. You just don't practice against a 5-down front a lot. And how you target your runs and how you target your protections are different against a 5-man or a 4-man front or a 3-man front with, standing outside linebackers. So they'll use the bear fronts. They'll use the kind of more traditional 3-4 looking fronts. Yep. They'll use, they'll shade here, shade there, and just make this offensive line think on top of try to block and, to make them communicate, because they haven't done a whole lot of it. And if you do that, you should be good. I also wonder too, you mentioned Forbes earlier. Kendall Fuller does not have a game status, a.k.a. he's playing.
Yeah.
So he went DNP limited, but he told reporters yesterday he's playing. And sure enough, he's not listed on the injury report going into Sunday. But what personnel do you see? Does Khaleke Hudson get back on the field? I think this could be a Khaleke game for, at least some stretches early on where you play that base and just say, hey, go ahead, pass it.
Yep.
We dare you. Now, again, they're dangerous. Like, that's a little scary because then does Kalik wind up on Darren Waller? And that seems less than ideal. Or on Saquon. Like, that's less than ideal. This is a game where that Buffalo nickel, like, Quan Martin obviously is going to be doing some of that, and Cam does some of that. Like, that personnel grouping feels safer. But I mean, the way Kalik played, I would try to get that guy on the field. And Cody had probably his best game, so he's getting better week after week after week. And again, like, is it a problem that they just seem to be okay with guys having 5 bad weeks and then getting together? Yes, but now in week 7, like, if they have it together, cool. Let's move forward and see what they can do. But this is definitely a big week to kind of see how they play it. And that puts some interesting stuff on tape for the Eagles, by the way, the next week. Like,
yep.
You think about making some of those changes there. Like, a lot of teams, this league got super pass happy, and people are starting to realize that, like, actually it's not quite as pass happy anymore. Passing yards are down for the first time in a long time. Scoring is down. Like, the defenses have finally matched the offenses. And I think some of the offenses that are breaking that trend are the ones that are now willing to go back and play with the fullback, play with some heavier personnel. Yep. They still find ways to use some of the spread principles and some of the things that have been in vogue the last couple of years with speed and spread formations and whatever. But they also realize that, like, running the football becomes super important. And the Giants are certainly trying to be that, in part because of their own limitations. But if you can make them one-dimensional offensively, they don't have a shot. Because, Tyrod Taylor behind a 4th-string offensive line, is that going to beat Chase Young, Daron Payne, John Allen, and Montez Sweat? If it does, then nobody come to work next week. Just, like, at that point, what are we doing?
That's what we need. That's what we need. You know, positioning ourselves to, you know, be out in front, as you already alluded to, is going to allow for, you know, Montez, who has 4.5 sacks on his year, to really go out there and get after him. I would love to see one of our, you know, pass rushers have a 3-sack game, a 4-sack game. I can't tell you the last time we've ever, you know, seen that or heard of that. So I think this is a good opportunity just for, you know, the defense to, quote unquote, get right.
No doubt. See if they can get some of that production. You guys want to go get paid? Or Chase specifically, Montez, You guys want to go get paid? Go stack some sacks. Get that money. This week could definitely be the week. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. When we get back, Damon Amendolara joins us for his Friday visit here on the Team 980. They get real Icarus-y, to go back to your Greek mythology days. You remember the story of Icarus, Anthony?
Not quite, Frank.
What do they teach you at Georgetown Prep? Icarus, the guy who flies too close to the sun.
Nope.
What do they teach you at Georgetown? Anthony, I think you just put your job at risk at Georgetown Prep.
Why?
There's no way that they did not teach you the story of Icarus at Georgetown Prep.
We actually did a lot of Greek mythology, but we didn't talk about Icarus flying too close to the sun.
Yes, you did. You don't remember it. I feel very confident. Who can we call at Prep to confirm this?
I mean, I will just do that right now, actually.
Okay. I would like you to ask someone of authority, do we teach about Icarus?
2 hours later.
Did we ever check in on that, Anthony?
Yeah, my classmates actually texted me and said, yeah, we've done it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to figure out where you were on that day of class at a later date.
You're right.
Last night, Aryna Sabalenka makes the U.S. Open final, the Belarusian player, and here's how it sounded on Belarusian television.
Aryna Sabalenka! Vamos, 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 vamos! Что Арина недостойна звания первой ракетки мира.
Yeah.
Получите! Распишитесь!
Oh, yeah.
Rising up, back on the street. Did my time, took my chances. When the distance, now I'm back on my feet. Just a man and his will to survive. So many times it happens too fast.
Oh, keep
You
going.
change your passion for glory. It's the eye of the tiger. It's the thrill of the night. Rising up to the challenge of a rival. And they lost, no survival. Все, ребята, я сдулся.
10 out of 10. No notes. Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. And on Fridays, we are joined by my good friend Damon Amendolara, CBS. Nope, damn it, old habits die hard. Sirius XM, Mad Dog Radio. He's 6 to 9 a.m. Have you done that on the air yet? Have you said the wrong station? I heard the phone click on, Ant. What's going on over there? Ant's checking.
I think I'm gonna try to call him back. I'm not sure what happened.
Okay. All right. Anthony's gonna try to call Damon back. Maybe he didn't hear me mess up where he works. Old habits die hard. What can I tell you? DA now, of course, with Sirius XM. So we'll talk to DA about the Giants and some of the other big games this weekend in the NFL. I actually would love to get DA's thoughts, too, on our NFL tiers yesterday. We had just 4 teams in our prime contender category. So we'll have to see if he thinks that the Lions, for instance, are – that's a fine, Anthony. If the Lions, for instance, belong in that top category. But as you probably heard, I think we have DA now. Damon, are you there?
I am. That was such a nice introduction, and then my call just dropped, so I apologize.
No worries.
It's good to be on with you on this Friday.
It is always good to have you. I don't know if you heard the introduction where I said you're wrong employer because old habits die hard. Have you done that to yourself yet?
I haven't, but if you listen to the show closely, you can tell that every time I say, it's the DA show on Mad Dog Sports Radio, because I have to pause, elongate, and make sure that it computes in my brain after 11 years at CBS Sports Radio.
So I have definitely on this show done, I still will do 106.7 The Fan on occasion. I don't know why. I've done more shows here than I did there, but I was there for a long time, even if the shows themselves were sporadic. I've definitely given out the wrong phone number. And then the worst is on Sundays when I do the pregame show, 100% chance at least once every other week I say the Hoffman show, and then I just go, nope, it's the Take Command pregame show. My brain is not capable of doing this many things.
One of the best things that I've heard on the airwaves is at CBS Sports Radio and within the Odyssey family, legendary sports talk host Jody McDonald is a regular fill-in host on CBS Sports Radio. He's also a fill-in host on WIP in Philadelphia and also a fill-in host on WFAN in New York, or at least had been. There was a moment on CBS Sports Radio a couple of months ago, which we played on the air on my show, in which Jody Mack gave out the phone number for WIP, then said, no, sorry, that's wrong. So he gave out the phone number for WFAN in New York and said, no, that was wrong. Then tried to give out the phone number for CBS Sports Radio and messed it up and said, you know what, who cares? You're already on hold, so just stay there.
That's tremendous. That is so good. It's like when we do the podcast plugs. It's like on your favorite podcast platform, which if you're listening to this on a podcast, you probably already know because you're listening to it right now. But
yeah,
it's what we all say.
Podcast platform because you're using it as we speak.
Right. It's just the things we do in this business. What can you say? All right. We also talk about actual sports as opposed to just making fun of ourselves. The headline that we have for you for this segment with the Commanders headed up your way to New York this weekend is, What the hell's wrong with the Giants? Obviously, a large part of it is injuries, but this is a team that won a playoff game last year and is a second half comeback against the lowly Arizona Cardinals away from being defeated this year, 0-6. Why do you think it has gone so sideways?
Last season, they weren't as good as their record would indicate, but they did make the playoffs, and you have to give them credit for that. But everything kind of went right. They won all of these one-score games. By the end of the season, they kind of had rounded into form. They'd figured out this formula with how to limit Daniel Jones's mistakes while also getting Saquon Barkley the bulk of the touches on offense. And when they got to the postseason, it was the perfect storm of a matchup. They probably couldn't have beaten anybody else in the NFC playoffs, but they could beat the Minnesota Vikings because the Vikings were also better than their record, or worse than their record would indicate. And they were prone to mistakes, and they were prone to one-score games, and the Giants ended up winning that one-score game. So that, I think, gave a lot of Giants fans some false confidence. Maybe outside expectations were falsely heightened, and people thought, okay, first step forward. This year, they're a little worse than they probably are because, as you just mentioned, the injuries. You take Saquon Barkley out of the mix early, and now you lose the focal point of your offense, which means you have to ask more from Daniel Jones. And what we've seen is the offensive line's just as bad as it was last year, and asking Daniel Jones to do more with less is not what he does well. And the schedule hasn't been all that kind to them. They played some good teams and got roughed up by those teams. So I think by the end of the season, should Daniel Jones get healthy and should Saquon Barkley remain healthy, I think you'll see a better version of the Giants when everything's kind of rounded into form and, you know, they kind of are healthy and they've gotten some of the better teams off of the schedule. But, you know, what happened was this year's offensive line did not take a step forward, which it needed to, and they're getting killed. And when you put Daniel Jones back, there's a sitting duck because the offensive line is a disaster like he was in that Monday nighter against the Seahawks. It's going to look really ugly. So a confluence of events. They're probably worse than they are today, but last year they were better than they were based on what their record of their playoff win was.
No, that all makes sense. And I do think the record point is a good one. And another reason why, like, if you're a Commanders fan, like, look at this weekend, and it's division games, so throw out the records anyway. But this team has probably played a little better, certainly at times, than a 1-6 record. At times they've, look like what they look like against the Cowboys, and every bit of 1-6. But they play. I think that's like 26-8 or something like that. Their teams that they played. The Jones part is also very interesting, and I had a buddy of mine text me right before the show and ask me an interesting question, which is, do you think that when you watch guys like Carr, when you watch guys like Jones, when you watch guys like what's happened with Russell Wilson, that there's going to be a reshaping of the quarterback market, because it does seem like paying a mid-level quarterback $40 million is a surefire way to not be any good?
I don't know, because in the offseason when they paid Daniel Jones, I was of the opinion that they had to pay Daniel Jones. It's more than anybody was comfortable seeing him make. Nobody thinks he's worth that type of money in the grand scale. But, it's the age-old Bills issue before Josh Allen, the Browns issue that has dogged them forever. And it is, if you do not have a quarterback, and Washington fans know this as well as anybody, if you do not have a quarterback, what's your solution? You either really have to stink to get the best quarterback or one of the best quarterbacks of the draft. You have to absolutely nail it midway through the first round, or somehow kill it like Lamar Jackson end of the first, or find Dak Prescott or Russell Wilson third or fourth round, or you are stuck on this never-ending merry-go-round. And if you try to go out there and piece it together with a free agent quarterback, you end up getting your Ryan Tannehills or your Derek Carrs, or, the stopgaps that don't ever really put you in a position to win Baker Mayfield. So the only solution to the quarterback thing is to draft the right guy and then keep him. And the Giants could have said, you know what, Daniel Jones isn't the guy to do it. And that would have been an okay assessment. But then you are actively punting on your current team and saying, now we have to stink and go and have to hit it in the draft again. And I just don't think they were ready to stomach going through another really bad season with then another really bad quarterback after that, which extends you out 2, 3, 4 years to find the guy. So it was kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't for Daniel Jones, for the Giants. And I didn't disagree giving Daniel Jones the bag. I think the problem is you have to give him a better offensive line. And the offensive line they have invested money and draft picks in, and every single one of them has been a bust. I mean, Justin Pugh is back playing and starting for them.
Let's go Orange.
I mean,
Let's
an insurance salesman. I mean, so it's crazy. And so everything is kind of like, kind of buried the Giants already, but they're 1-5 out of their first 6 games. They played the 49ers, the Cowboys, the Dolphins, and the Seahawks. I mean, those are 4 playoff caliber teams and 3 of the best teams in football. So nothing has really helped them out this year, and they're getting, as you might imagine, crucified here in New York for it.
No doubt. And you make a great point, too, that maybe Jones actually isn't that bad. Certainly he's not this bad, but when you put him behind this O-line, no one's good. And that's a tale as old as time. And, Andrew Thomas is a pretty good player, but he hasn't played. So that's about the only thing they've gotten right, and that's also gone wrong for them on the offensive line. Damon Amendolara, DA Show, Mad Dog Radio, Sirius XM, with us here on the Hoffman Show. Last thing we'll have for you, DA. So we brought back our tiers on Thursday where we rank every NFL team in one of 4 tiers. The top one being prime contenders. The second tier is the interesting. Actually, no, sorry. It's the puncher's chance tier. That's what we called it. The puncher's chance tier. Which tier do you think the Lions belong in?
In terms of winning a Super Bowl?
Yeah, are they a serious prime contender to, let's even say, just play in the Super Bowl, or do they merely have a puncher's chance?
It's still just a puncher's chance, and it's unfair perhaps to say that today because they've passed a lot of tests today, and I might feel different about this in December or January entering the postseason, but I still think that this is a 2-horse NFC in the 49ers and the Eagles, and nothing's going to move me off of that unless we see significant injury. And I have to believe that the Lions will beat both of those teams in the playoffs. I have to believe they beat one of them in the divisional round, one of them in the championship game. And I don't believe that. I do not think they can go on the road to do both. Now, is it plausible the Lions are the 1 seed of the NFC? I suppose, and if you told me that, they're 13-4, 14-3, and they host the NFC divisional round and championship game, I might feel differently. And if you told me that, the Eagles get picked off before they have to play them, and then it's just getting through the 49ers, maybe I would give them a better chance. But if you're asking me, do I think the Lions can go on the road to beat both, or even if they've got to beat one at home and one on the road, I still don't think they do both of those things this year. Now, that being said, the Eagles have not looked good this season, and the 49ers just laid the ultimate stinker, and so maybe Brock Purdy gets exposed. Who knows? But today, before Halloween, I think it's puncher's chance, not squarely as a Super Bowl contender.
That is where we put them as well, but it took Anthony convincing me. I'm kind of in. But then again, I'm the same guy who was in on him last year, and it took a long time for me to be right after Hard Knocks on that one.
Well, there's reasons to love him. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And number one is the coach, which I never thought I would say because I was very slow to adopt Dan Campbell as a championship caliber coach because I thought a lot of his hokiness and heart in his sleeve stuff was just not – it did not reflect a championship caliber mentality. It was a little too collegiate and a little too over-emotional for a long season. However, he's grown into the role, and he's much better today than he was 2 years ago. And he set a foundation of toughness and accountability and attitude and togetherness and a functional Lions team. So I think you believe there. The Jared Goff thing, I think, is a bit of a carriage going to turn into a pumpkin at some point. I know he's playing really great right now. But we have to believe, again, that he's going to go on the road and beat the 49ers or go on the road and beat Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. And do we really think he's going to do that? Or is it just kind of a fun narrative to say, see, he's not as bad as he used to be, or people had it wrong? the Lions are a fun team, and you want to believe in them because they've never been good. And believe me, I'm right in that boat. But I also have to be realistic and say, are all of the things we know about the NFC and the playoffs and the Lions, do we throw them out because we want to or because we really think they're going to do it?
It's a totally fair question. I still would take the Eagles and the 49ers. The 49ers are the team I picked. I will say this specifically about Goff. Like, I think that is a trade that worked for both teams because Goff is really talented. He's got a great arm, a quick release. He's not a dummy in terms of football IQ. And he did not fit the timeline of what Sean was building in LA, which we saw was super compressed, and Stafford was the perfect guy for it. And now that Goff is a little bit older, more experienced, I think you're seeing why he was the number 1 overall pick. And he legitimately is, like, he's 29-4 the last 17 games, as in 29 touchdowns to 4 picks. That's ridiculous. Nick Foles also had a stretch like that once in his career and then was turned back into a pumpkin. So I guess we'll see. But I do think for Goff, like, it was in many ways a guy who was in the spotlight and in high pressure situations too early, and he wasn't ready for it. And I tend to think he's ready for it now.
Very good assessment. I tend to agree on all of that. And I think what's also helping him is he went through the rigors in LA and now is seasoned and likes to take pride in the fact that he doesn't need to be the superstar. He just needs to win. And when he wins, he gets vindicated. And the fact that he has that attitude versus, oh my God, is this my team? Oh my God, is this my offense? Oh my God, am I living up to the number 1 pick? Oh my God, am I living up to the contract? All of those things that swim through a young player's head, he doesn't have to worry about, and he gets vindicated in a totally different way, which is just W's. So I agree with all of that. Again, I now need to be sold that he's going to go on the road and beat the San Francisco 49ers defense, or go on the road and outduel Jalen Hurts on the road in Philadelphia, or, you know, one or both. And it's still, as great of a story as he is, it's still a tough sell for me. But I agree with all of that on your assessment of why Jared Goff is succeeding now versus what happened in L.A.
Damon Amendolara, Sirius XM Mad Dog Radio. Check him out 6 to 9 a.m. weekdays, and then Fridays here on The Hoffman Show. DA, always appreciate you, sir. Thank you very much, and have a phenomenal weekend. Actually, wait,
Thanks,
hold
man.
on. Well, wait. Before I just remember this, I have to bring this up because we had Mraz on yesterday.
Oh.
Which I know now you're like, oh God, this could go in quite literally any direction.
That's
but
right, yeah.
I said, like, the well-rested Sean Marash is with us because he no longer does mornings. And he said, well, and I was like, I feel like you won that battle between you and DA. And we were trying to decide who won. You, who still have to get up very early at 6 to 9 a.m., but works an hour less, or Mraz, who gets to sleep in, but actually added a half hour. I think they're 2 to 6:30 in the afternoons up at FAN.
Oh, it's me by a long shot. Yeah, the 3:45 wake up call is never going to be easy.
Yeah.
But I mean, dude, by the time I get through the second hour, I'm like, wait a second, I have an hour to go and I'm done with my job for the day at 9 a.m. At 9 a.m., like I did my show from home the other day. We did a Friday home show.
Yeah.
I go down to the home studios in the basement, and then I walk upstairs, and my wife is like, well, I'm going to get ready for work here, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, well, I can take the baby. And she's like, oh, right, you're done with your day. I'm getting ready to go to work. And I was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good to go. So what do you need me to do, honey? So yeah, I totally win that battle.
Yeah, you won. Okay, glad we established that. Mraz is a loser. Okay, Damon Amendolara, have a phenomenal weekend, sir.
Thanks, man. Talk to you later.
See ya. All right, that's DA with us every Friday here on the Hoffman Show. Quick look at what is trending, and then our weekend preview before Take Command takes over at 5 with some more insight and analysis from Logan Paulson on Commanders and Giants. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. All right, Anthony, we have like 2 minutes for our weekend preview. What are you looking forward to doing this weekend? What sports on TV? Are you doing anything this weekend? What you got?
I will be doing stuff this weekend. I will be going to Atlanta to cover an HBCU game between Clark Atlanta and Central State.
Nice. When are you leaving tonight? You leaving tomorrow?
I leave as soon as this show ends. My flight is at 8:15, and I will be
You can make it.
sprinting over to DCA.
Yeah, you got this. You driving over?
Yeah, my girlfriend's gonna pick me up.
Oh, that's very nice of her.
She's bringing me food as well.
Oh, that's
very nice.
That's why she's a keeper.
Exactly.
I mean, there's probably many other reasons, but that's that's big time keeper characteristics. That is her character coming through in a sign of love and affection.
Yes.
What's it called? I don't know. I was trying to think of like the love language term. Anyway, the point is blessings. Got some playoff baseball this weekend, or Anthony, as we call it around here, playoff baseball.
Baseball.
We got NLCS and ALCS tonight, and then you got F1 this weekend here in the United States in Austin. Daniel Ricciardo, star, of course, of the Drive to Survive show, is back in the car this weekend. So you got that. NWSL playoffs tonight, so that's going.
Wizards tonight.
Wizards preseason tonight. Rest of the NBA preseason wraps up tonight as well. Anything else on the sports calendar for the weekend?
Ohio State takes on Penn
college
State
football, of course,
at high noon. Oh my goodness!
So you got that. That's the big one in college football tomorrow. The Jahan Dotson versus Terry McLaurin Bowl, and then of course your NFL Sunday. Our picks coming up at 5:30. Coming up next, it is a Take Command Friday. How do the Commanders make sure that they defeat a 1-5 sad New York Giants team? Logan Paulson has answers. He gives them to you next on the Team 980. Mr. Fortier, how are you, and are you using the headphones that I sent you?
I am using the headphones that you send me, so I'll not be pulled over. And I got to tell you, man, seeing the craziness coming out of Chicago today with the Justin Fields comment, with the DC abruptly resigning, it's just like giving me flashbacks to what this team used to be like. And I'm like, wow, I'm talking about football in a stadium? That feels odd.
Right. One, God, this call quality is just exceptional. So just, I got to say, I'm going to send you a clip later just so you can hear how clear you are. Two, we actually, so earlier in the show, we did a segment called This, That, and the Other Thing, and we wound up putting the Bears stuff in that. And yeah, it felt very oddly familiar, but also safely distant, which I think is good. All right, we got a lot to get to and not a lot of time. So first, let's...
James Smith Williams just pulled up and honked at me. I'm on the radio with Craig Hoffman right now. Do you want to say something?
What's up, James?
How you doing, man?
What's up, James? Although you probably can't hear it because this is just in Sam's headphones.
Quick. Craig, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Feeling good. Just talking to Sam. Last time we did a hit with Sam, he put Matt Paris and Ben Standing on, so this is an upgrade.
Way better. Yeah, way better.
Yeah.
Definitely an upgrade.
All right, let's make sure nobody gets in trouble here. All right, James, drive home safely.
Thank you. You have a good one.
All right, goodbye. James Smith Williams, everybody. I mean, that's been an ongoing bit.
Oh, okay.
I think Travis Kelce's got the best bit of all. He's just dating Taylor Swift. So,
That
you
too.
know, forget the lyrics. and then we got our guy Ian Eagle talking about Travis Kelce finding blank space in the end zone. Now, that's how you do it. By the way, I did follow up. For those of you that listened to the end of the show on Monday, we said we're going to have to investigate. Was that, like, did Noah Eagle feed Ian, his dad, the lyric? I texted Ian. I was like, we might have to have you on the show to do this. And he's like, there's nothing to investigate. I'm just a Swiftie.
Ooh, okay.
And I was like, oh, well, there goes the segment idea, Ian.
Did you see Jason Kelce confirm the rumors, though?
Yes, he kind of did on WIP today, which is very silly. Jason, your podcast is very good and very successful. If you're going to confirm the biggest rumor in the celebrity world,
Exactly.
don't do it on, do it on a radio show, obviously. Don't do it on a radio show. Do it on your own podcast, you moron. I'm just kidding, Jason. You're definitely not a moron. Jason Kelce, not a moron. It was just not the, why am I doing, let's keep going with the comments. We have a new submission to the Real Things Hall of Fame. The F-35 is a fighter jet that the military has. It is very expensive. Very expensive. The F-35 program costs the U.S. government / the military over $1 trillion. Like, this is one of the most expensive things in the U.S. government's budget is the program that makes these planes. Each one is incredibly valuable and expensive. And something happened during a training mission, but this jet leaves, they go on a training mission, and it's in stealth mode, apparently, and the pilot has to eject. So the pilot's like, I'm up out of here. Pilot lands relative. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We'll go around the NFL at the bottom of the hour. And then we got our pick 6 at 6. Anthony, actually, did we decide if we're having Dave? It's a preseason game. We got a lot going on. Are we having Dave at 6:15 or are we going to stick with some football stuff?
I
guess we'll decide.
TBD.
Okay. So we got to check in and see what we're going to do there. And then we definitely have WNBA champion 3 times, Alysha Clark, on the show at 6:30. Right now, though, it's time to take a little bit closer look at our top story. So it's time for Not My Beat.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not My Beat.
Today, it is a Take Command Day for Not My Beat, so Logan Paulson is kind of our beat reporter, if you will. His beat is watching the tape and figuring out what is going to happen based off his best guesses, based off that very highly expertised research. I don't think that's actually, I don't think expertise is a word, but we're just going to roll with it. The point is, Logan's very smart, and I get to talk to him 3 times a week. For the Take Command podcast, we share some of that with you here on the radio. And here is how Logan thinks the Commanders' offense can protect itself from a very blitz-happy Giants defense.
It's time to take command with former NFL tight end Logan Paulson and former Commanders beat reporter Craig Hoffman.
The Take Command podcast from Odyssey Sports. I'm Craig Hoffman. He is Logan Paulson. And unfortunately, we have to talk about the New York Giants. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's been a time up in the Meadowlands this year. It's the Commanders head that way. Now, of course, it's division game. Logan, throw out the records. We know that Daniel Jones, if he plays, and he was back in practice on a limited basis on Wednesday, has been an absolute Commanders killer. We know that MetLife Stadium has been an absolute house of horrors for Washington. So let's actually kind of start there real quick. Bigger picture, not even the Giants. This is really just me pushing off having to talk about the Giants. But divisional games, to throw out the records, but you played in them. Like, is it familiarity? Is it like a different emotional state? Like, what is it about divisional games that it doesn't seem to matter where the 2 teams are in their season?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I think you get a really good feel for what your opponent's doing. Like like physically, like, one of the points of contention or nervousness going into a game is like, what does this guy do physically? How does he move? Obviously you can study film, but there's a different opportunity to kind of run around on a guy and, put your hands on somebody and kind of know what they like to do to shed and kind of get a feel for it. And so as you get to know them better and they get to know you, you kind of start playing that advanced like chess metric. And I think the familiarity breeds like a faster game quality. Because like I know exactly what this defense is. I know exactly how they're going to play this run. We ran it against them, 6 weeks ago. Let's see it again. And we ran it against them last year twice. You know what I'm saying? So you get a really good feel for that. And obviously like the fans in the stadium are just a little bit more up. And so I definitely think the divisional thing is real. And you talk about it differently. You talk about divisional games in the week in a different way. So it's definitely something that's 100% real. And, in the context of the Giants, like for whatever reason, they just have a good feel for this team. They have a good feel, good opportunity. Like, in our Take Fives, we talked about some Giant stories. Like I felt like during early in my playing career, I had a really good feel for what the Giants were doing. Like, I don't know what it was. When I went in that game, I just felt like I knew them really well. And sometimes when the Giants play the Commanders, it's like they just have a good knack and feel for kind of the holes and the wrinkles in the defense and ways to scheme stuff open. So I think divisional games are so fun. They're so fun to watch. They're so fun to play in. And I think they're fun to talk about because, like you said, even in this game where, we're going to talk about the Giants here in a second, the Giants aren't a very good football team at the moment. Like, I don't know. And like Santana Moss is this is one of my favorite things he does. He's very consistent with his points of analysis. And anytime we're playing a divisional game, he's like, you can't count the other team out. And I think that's 100% accurate. And so whatever the record is, however bad the Giants have played, like this team, the Commanders need to come and like put their best foot forward and just say like, we are the better football team. We're the better roster and play like it. And I think ultimately that's what this game comes down to.
Yeah, it's also styles make fight. Styles makes fights. Styles make fights. Whatever that saying is in the proper conjugation of those words. That thing that happens that has me scared, to the extent that I'm scared of this Giants team this week. Defensively for them, Wink Martindale is the most aggressive defensive coordinator probably in the entire league. Certainly one of, with his blitzing nature, just lots of pressure. And we know that Sam and this offensive line, like the offensive line, as we've said a million times, is playing way better than the numbers, so to quote unquote say, and a lot of fans think. There's a great clip that's kind of going around Twitter yesterday where, someone was like, how can people say, the analysts say that the offensive line is playing well? And the clip was one of the sacks where Sam ran right into a sack. Cornelius Lucas pushed the guy, the end 15 yards upfield. Sam runs back into a sack, and it's like, because that's on the quarterback. But the one area where the O-line, and this is in conjunction with Sam as a young quarterback, has struggled a bit is blitz pickup. And it's been free runners and things like that. Yeah. Which, again, isn't always necessarily on the offensive line. It has to do with protection calls, and that's between Nick Gates and Sam. And then how do you actually pick it up and just be a football player and find that free runner and try to hit him? So there's all those kinds of things that are going to be way more in the spotlight this week. The Giants offense is bad. We'll get there. But this Giants defense is starting to play better. Some of their rookie corners are playing really well. Your guy, Deonte Banks, who you loved in the draft, has been exceptional so far this season. Yep. So what challenges does this Giants defense face for a Commanders offense that continues to be a mixed bag this year?
Yeah, well, I think it starts with the pressure, the pressure that they're going to bring. I think he pressures about 40% of the time. Only the Minnesota Vikings pressure more. And I think I was a little surprised because in the Bills game, he brought the pressure way back. It was 20%, and they were all simulated pressures, meaning he's not actually bringing extra rushers. He's bringing 4. It's just a different pattern of 4, which, again, this team has had a hard time with. But it looked like he kind of was saying, and it's probably because of the Josh Allen thing, we're going to be a little bit less aggressive with the pressure. But in terms of, his philosophy and something that Wink Martindale is always talking about, he's like, I develop my defensive game plan each week based off the offense's protection principles. And if I'm watching the Commanders, I'm saying, this is an interesting statistic. They have the highest rate of unblocked pressure in the NFL, but they're also 30th in sacks. So they're not getting home with that pressure. But against this team, against Sam Howell, if I'm him, I'm saying if I can give a muddy picture in the back end, maybe again, simulated pressure, zone droppers, different rotations, different coverage cells, and apply pressure and get some of these free rushers the way Sam Howell holds the football. All those pressures, a lot of those pressures are going to turn into sacks. And as we've talked about before, like sacks kill drives. It just puts you in a situation where you can't be successful offensively. You're behind the sticks, and it's hard to execute in those situations. So that's what I would say. I would say that if I'm Wink, I'm thinking very long and hard about the best ways to bring pressure. EB obviously likes to spread you out to help you identify the pressure, but I think Wink does a good job of developing pressure packages that stress protection rules. And I think ultimately with a young quarterback, that's going to be really challenging. So in conjunction with go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say then, then you have to get to like game plan questions. So go ahead and finish your thought and then we'll get into that.
So, and I also think on that side of the ball, and you alluded to this a little bit already, they have good personnel. Like Dexter Lawrence is maybe the best defensive player in the division. And I know that comes like with a lot of really good football players, Duran, John, Jalen
Michael
Carter.
Parsons might want to have a word, but
he's in that kind of conversation. Like there's just guys who are just physically dominant. And in the same, I think the Michael Parsons comparison is very apt. Like a guy that he's out there and he's going to win his one-on-one. And so you have to kind of cultivate a protection plan for a true nose, which is silly. Like I went and watched all their pressures, and he probably accounts for 50% of them. And it's him using good pass rush technique, but he's also just a big, strong dude who's like lifting offensive linemen, grown men, into the quarterback's lap on 3-step drops and running line stunts. Him and Williams, I forget Williams' first name, number 99. Leonard. And that's a very dynamic group inside. So that's something that, again, you got to take care of. I think Nick Gates is going to have a big day because he does play a true nose. He plays directly over the center. So it's going to be a lot of one-on-ones with him. Kayvon Thibodeau is a guy that I think people talk about a lot, but in the film study, he's got 4 sacks with him. I think he leads the team in sacks, but he's not like this dominant, overbearing presence like a guy like Max Crosby or Nick Bosa or Myles Garrett is. Like he disappears for long stretches of time, and he is successful against tackles who aren't very good. Like he had two of his sacks come against the 3rd-string tackle for Seattle. He should have those sacks, right? He should win that matchup.
Yeah.
So
also, we were saying that going into last year, though, and he ruined their day. Had the best game probably of his career.
Yeah. So again, matchups make fights, obviously, right? And I think, like you said, that probably the best game of his career. In that was that week, the game.
Oh, they played him back to back. It was whatever one that one was.
Yeah. So again, like a guy that fans get a lot of buzz about, but it doesn't really. I don't think he deserves all the he's a good football player, but he's kind of. He's above average. He's not great. And I think that's where I would draw the distinction. Bobby Okereke is absolutely balling his face off. And he's a guy that was a little bit up and down in Indianapolis, high volume tackle guy. But again, one of those guys that never graded well because he's, having coverage busts and all this kind of stuff. And for whatever reason, man, he's playing awesome. He's playing great football there. So, and then you mentioned the back end there, Adoree Jackson's not playing great, but Banks is playing really well. Their safeties are good for what they do. Isaiah Simmons has made some appearances where you're like, wow, that's a big,
that's fast, the 1st-round pick guy.
Yeah. Big, fast, physical guy. So they do have some pieces. And I think the crux of their defense is they are a little bit like Bobby Okereke. Am I saying that correctly? Is that right?
Yes, Okereke. Thanks, Mike Rico, for saying that properly on Sunday Night Football for me to know that that's how you say it.
Yeah. So
if it's wrong, it's Tirico's fault.
Yeah, there we go. And so he's a little bit feast or famine as a player, and the defense is a little bit feast or famine. Like they are blitzing, and they're not always totally sound in the back end. They leverage the back end in a bad way, but that chaos creates opportunities. They had 3 turnovers against Miami. Like that's awesome. And I know they gave up almost 500 yards, but they gave 3 turnovers and a defensive touchdown. Like that's kind of what you're dealing with, is a group that is looking for those big plays. Against the Bills, they had a couple turnovers, right? They were able to do a ton of stuff like that. So I think in terms of sides of the ball to be worried about, the defense is very, very high, especially with Sam and what Sam does, what Sam struggles with, right?
Yeah,
which is managing pressure.
It's a bad matchup for the Commanders if they let it. It is a pressure happy team that will turn you over. And those are the two. I mean, look, that's not unique that those are the Achilles heels of the Commanders. I think it's just more pronounced for Washington because when I've been making this analogy, I don't know if this is technically an analogy. I've been saying this the past couple of days that like if you like cryogenically froze some football scout in 2018 and they had no idea on who Sam Howell was, and you unfroze them and you gave them a cut up and you said, this is all of Sam Howell's plays, and you left out the sacks, they'd be like, this dude's incredible. Baller, yeah. Like, he's so good. Then you're like, oh, actually, I forgot all the sacks. It's like, oh, okay, well, let me watch those real quick. It can't take that long. It's just 6 games. It's like there's 34 plays. What? Like, how? No. So it's that significant of like a upside downside thing with them. Man, the thing is, though, when you look at, if I was to put together a game plan, it's like, okay, well, how do you avoid pass pressure? You don't pass, you run the football. Right. And the Giants are giving up a league second worst 147.5 yards per game. So the Broncos are giving up 172 a game. The Giants are giving up 147. The Panthers are giving up 144. And Logan, what do all 3 of those teams have in common?
They're not good at football.
Also, they've played the Miami Dolphins. So that probably has something to do with it.
They played the Miami Dolphins, who runs the ball a ton. They play the San Francisco 49ers, who run the ball a ton. I forget who else is on their schedule, but there's another team in there that you're like, Seattle likes to run the football a lot. They have I think they're like 5th in the NFL in terms of run frequency. So a lot of those teams are going to run the ball a lot. And for whatever reason, I cannot articulate why. I think it's because they're a little bit all over the place. They do have a hard time fitting counter and like GT. So counter is obviously like when, you pull the guard, he kicks out, and you have a fullback that leads up on the linebacker. And I don't know if it's just because they're so aggressive. They have a really hard time fitting that. So when you look at their
it's 5-1 a carry. So it's not just like the totals of they've been down in games and chasing. Like they're giving up 5-1 a carry.
And I was going to say,
worst in the league.
Also, they have seen more runs than any other team, I think, in the NFL up to this point because of the game flow like you're talking about. They see, I think it's like almost 50%, which is very high. So, but what I was going to say is that they have a hard time with counters. And if you are a Washington fan, you should be like, oh, this is great, because one of the team's best runs is counters and GT. So I would expect to see that quite a bit early and often from this team, from the Commanders, because, again, they have a hard time fitting it. So let's take advantage of it. Also, quarterback scrambles tend to kill this team because of the pressure that they bring if the quarterback gets out of the pocket or they can't contain it. So that's another reason why that number is inflated. But, for whatever reason, they have a hard time stopping the run. And again, we talked about how they've played a lot of teams that are very proficient at running the football. But I think it's I definitely think this has been a trend since Wink's gotten there. It's not something exclusive to this year.
So that begs the question, like, we spent time earlier this week on the previous pod, and, I've been talking about it all week. We've talked about this offline as well. Like, the Commanders are not a team that's built to run the football. This is not who they are. This is not what they want to do. They didn't practice it with the frequency that a lot of other teams that are built to run the football would in the spring and in the summer. Like, they don't scheme it up in the same way that a Shanahan or a McDaniel or a Ben Johnson in Detroit does. Right. Like, they line up, they run their runs, and they hope for the best. And really they pass to set up the run. If you're like, I don't say scheme agnostic, but like approach agnostic, you'd probably come into this game and be like, all right, what do the Giants not do well? Let's run the football. But the Commanders are not approach agnostic. They're a pass to set up the run team. Sure. Do you go against your identity and try to be like, hey, we're running the football this week? Or do you try to do what you do and hope that you can get the game flow where you want it, and then you can run the football pretty well?
Yeah, so to me, I think it's a game, and you mentioned it, game flow, where I think it's all about managing risk and managing the defense's impact on your offense. And so if I'm EB, if I'm Ron, I can take a more conservative approach here, and I can run the ball. We talked again about their third down efficiency, how that's led to that's aided or affected by, for like a relatively poor efficiency on first and second down. I think in this game, that's okay. And I know I've said that before, but in this game, because the offense for the Giants is so sluggish at the moment, I think you just want to manage this game, as best you can and limit Wink's ability, to kind of impact the game with turnovers and sacks and affecting field position in a negative way. So I would say you want to go against type a little bit, just because, we talked about Chicago. And Chicago is a totally different animal than this. And I think a lot of fans are going to classify them together because they think they're not good football teams. But Chicago had this ability to pass protect and create explosive plays, to consistently create explosive plays with DJ Moore. Their running game was very efficient. Justin Fields, say what you want about him, as an explosive runner, also as an explosive passer down the field. And when you look at that dynamic, there was a little bit of concern that if they got in this rhythm, that you would have to kind of play catch up. When you watch the Giants offense, there's not that same pressure, or not even that same precedent that exists. So if I'm EB, I'm saying, okay, I need the number one thing in this game is managing pressure, right? One of the best ways to do that is to run the football. And again, stay ahead of the sticks and all those kind of analytical things that we've talked about, and analytics driven kind of approaches to football. But I'd say that becomes the priority for me, is just saying, how do we take Sam out of these situations that are very challenging for him? And one of the ways is run the football efficiently. So I'm going to probably spend a little bit more time and energy this week of making sure we feel really, really good about that element of our game. And yes, you're going to have to throw the football, but I want to see a slightly higher frequency of running the football so that Sam isn't always dealing with, I'm in the gun. It's empty. We got a little bit of motion by the back. Are they in man? Looks like they're in man. Let's go on dummy cadence. Are they pressuring? Let's get the pressure retarget. Like, that's just a lot for him to deal with, and he's going to have to do that, no doubt. But instead of
do some of it,
instead of him having to do it 35 to 40 times a game, like if we can get that number down in like the 20s, I would feel a lot better about it, just from a risk management perspective. And again, I don't think the Giants. They're an NFL team and they have explosive playmakers, but I don't think they can affect this game as much with their offense as they can with their defense. So I feel like as the coordinator, it's your job to manage that risk assessment and make sure you can stay in the game.
No, I totally agree with that. And like, there's some stuff that, I think situationally too, you might even take some pages out of the Bears playbook. Like, if it's 3rd and 7, draws on the table.
Yeah.
You can't be afraid to punt. You should be afraid of sack fumbles. You should be afraid of interceptions. Right. Like, you should be afraid of that stuff. And so again, that's not like take no risks or don't take an average. Right. Like at 3rd and 7, screw it. Let's just run a duo. And if we get 7 yards, great. If not, we'll just punt it. That's not what I'm saying. But like, if they're loading up a blitz every once in a while, keep them honest. Like, that's exactly what the Bears did. I guess they did it against some lighter boxes that Washington presented, but like, don't be afraid to run the ball on a weird 3rd down and distance when you think Wink's going to bring the house. Like, let them all run by you, and then San Antonio Gibson up on a draw play, or
right.
Obviously the screen game is something that teams seem to be on for them, but can you place one on 1st and 2nd down, perhaps that's not quite as obvious, and get some big plays that way where the ball is kind of predetermined to come out of Sam's hand in a way that takes advantage of the Giants' aggression. So like, there are things EB can obviously do and probably will do to try to combat that. But then also, if you can just stay out of the bad down and distances in the first place, then Wink doesn't have quite the chance to scheme up all these crazy exotic blitzes where there's exposure on the back end that you hope is not an issue because your pressure gets home. If you block it up, then there's opportunities there. And I think another thing too is like, can you use some of the quick game stuff, obviously, to achieve those goals, but also to get some of these guys involved? We've talked about Jahan, and it seems like that narrative almost took off too much this week.
Yeah.
Where everybody was doing the deep dive into Jahan, and all of a sudden that you look at the numbers and it's like, oh, his target percentage is basically the exact same as last year. Right. His catches are right on target for last year. Obviously, you want to see growth. That's why people are like, what's going on with Jahan? But can you get him an early, easy touch or two? Can you continue to do what you've been doing recently with Terry? Obviously, Curtis is going to get his touches within the game plan. Like, can you get these guys involved quickly, early, in a way that limits exposure of Sam and also get your playmakers involved and keeps you out of bad down and distance? Like, that's the easy analysis, but it's like, how do you actually do that? Is obviously that's why EB's got his job, and I talk into this microphone and not a headset.
Yeah, and I think that's good high-level analysis, because like, that's the crux of the whole thing. It's like, and then obviously the how is really important, and you could talk about, you mentioned some of the things: screens, draws, quick game. Again, efficiency on 1st and 2nd down. You're not running the ball every 1st down. We're not saying to do that, but finding a balanced game flow so that you're in a 3rd and 3, and you're not going to get this exotic craziness in the back end. And if you are in the back end, if you are getting this exotic craziness, like, make sure Sam understands where the answers are, like what you're looking for versus certain pressures. Like, all that stuff is layered in here, and it's not there's a reason that they start prepping for these games on Monday. It's because they have to kind of cover and check all these boxes as they go through it. But I think that's 100% right. It's because of the structure of the Giants, it just becomes more important offensively just to manage some of the risk that you would incur otherwise. And I think EB, like when he calls games, seems to be okay with a higher level of risk than a lot of play callers because of, and it's not his fault necessarily, it's just because of how Sam plays the game right now. But he seems to be okay with that. And I'm okay with that too, because I think you're getting a good quarterback play. The offense is being effective. But in this game, I would just say, hey, let's pull that back a little bit, right? And make sure that we're not going to let the Giants defense win the game. You mentioned sack force fumbles. You mentioned interceptions. Like that's what you're contending with. And so I want to manage that, limit those opportunities as much as I can, because like we're going to talk about the Giants offense here in a second. I don't think they're good enough to beat you right now.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That from Take Command, the podcast out now. Got all weekend to listen to the rest of it. Our talk about the Giants offense and the rest of what you should be watching for on Sunday. Of course, Logan and I will also be with you live for the Take Command pregame show starting at 10 a.m. here on the Team 980 Sunday morning. We get back here on the Hoffman Show. Anthony and I will pick each and every NFL game for the weekend. We will also let you know who we picked last night. I am more excited about that than Anthony is. And we'll also provide analysis as well of what to watch for through each and every game of the Week 7 slate. That's next on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live as well on the free Odyssey app. They tell us we should not really engage in certain parts of the content process. We should definitely post our content. We should tease our content. Hey, tell the people when things are happening on the show. Put that out there on social media. Then make sure you share the content afterwards. But definitely do not engage with the people who comment on it. It's the deepest, darkest underbelly of the internet. No. Do not read the comments. But every single week, 5:30 on a Wednesday, what do we do, Anthony Haney?
We read
Yep.
those comments, baby.
I'm so glad that you gave us a really good one there, because next week we're going to have a fancy new intro for this. We just got the big voice guy, old Jim Cutler, to do some stuff for us. And in my head, the fancy intro includes Anthony going, read those comments, and he just gave me the material I needed to work with. He didn't even know that. You didn't know that, Anthony. Tell the people you didn't know that.
I did not at all.
But next week, you bet your bottom dollar that you're going to see it. It's a running bit on the show, but also like an actual thing. I'm trying to learn French. My wife and I are going to Paris next year for the Olympics, so I'm trying to learn French. It's incredibly difficult. I'm very bad at it. Tips for someone learning French. You did the reverse. For people that don't know, you started as a French speaker, and I was reading on Wikipedia, so I don't know if it's true, but also Haitian Creole, first two languages, and then had to learn English, which I know is very, very difficult to learn when it's not your native language. French, English, they don't seem compatible. What's your tip for me as I try to learn French?
I would say watch movies in French with English subtitles. That's what I did.
Okay.
I watched a lot of movies in French, but I had the English. No, I watched a lot of movies in English with the French subtitles. So like movies, music, it's kind of something that's like easy, like on the brain. It's not too much information, but you can still enjoy it and you can see the conversation, because that's the hardest part. Learning like a little word, like to say like, hey, my name is this or whatever, that's easy. But holding a conversation, that's the hardest part.
Yeah, right now I'm really just trying to master, like, I'm American, do you speak English? Because I think in Paris I can get away with that.
Yeah, so je suis américain.
Yeah.
Et je ne parle pas français.
See, even the way you said that is not the way Duolingo says to say that. So I'll just have to come back to my new French tutor, Benjamin St-Just. BSJ, I appreciate it. Thank you, man.
Sure.
Our pick six at 6 coming at the top of the hour. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. It is about time for us to take a look at the NFL slate. Really, it is time, Anthony. Is there anything else we need to do before that?
I don't think so.
Okay. This is also, we look at the slate. We pick every single game. We provide analysis, but we also, of course, make those picks and we keep track of them. Anthony, how are the picks so far this year? And also, I think this would be the time where we perhaps tell people about what happened last night in the picks, because we didn't say it on the show.
So to answer your first question.
Yeah.
Going into this week.
Yeah.
You are 48-29.
Mm-hmm.
I am 45-32. So you currently hold a 3-game lead over yours truly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, week
7.
Week 7. Yeah, I need to. Boom, boom.
That's what we're doing right now.
Yeah, week 7. Got off to a little bit of a shaky start for brother man Anthony. I texted. Well, Craig texted me first.
Which has become a tradition. We forget to pick the game on Thursday during the show. About 2 minutes before kickoff, one of us just texts the other a team name. And I texted Anthony, Jags, to which he very stupidly responded, Saints.
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't think Trevor Lawrence was really going to play. And
it was
he actually
pretty well
did play.
known before the game yesterday that he was going to play.
Yeah.
You just thought he wasn't going to be himself.
Yeah, pretty much.
Big
I actually told a couple of my students, I think he's going to play. I don't think he finishes the game. I think the Saints are going to rout him. He played pretty well. They went out and won. But I promise you, had the tight end, I think Troutman, I think that's who it was, who dropped it.
Moreau?
Oh, Moreau. Foster Moreau. Terrible drop in the back of the end zone.
Yeah.
Gosh. But that Saints offense does not look good. It is a one-man offense. Alvin Kamara.
12 receptions for 91 yards. What a wacky bit.
Insane.
Yeah. It's not very good.
Yeah.
All right. So that means it's time to hit the music and try to see if Anthony can get back on track. Because now instead of going in 3 games down, he's 4 games down. Anthony, you've got the music. Yeah. Raiders and Bears. Ugh. Oh, what? This is... What? You know what an amuse-bouche is, Anthony? An amuse-bouche is a term that you use for like a little starter in a meal. It's supposed to like kind of wake up your palate. This is the opposite of an amuse-bouche.
Yeah.
If the first thing you experience is Raiders and Bears, you're not going to like football for the rest of the day. The rest of the slate, the rest of what was supposed to happen is ruined. I believe I saw Diana Rossini report earlier that Brian Hoyer is starting for the Raiders. The Bears, who is even starting for them? Because Fields is hurt. Oh, that's right. How do you say his name?
I think it's Pageant.
Sure.
That's how it looks.
That guy.
Maybe it's Pageant. I don't know.
Yeah.
Number 17. Yeah.
Sure. So Vegas is favored by 2.5 on the road. I guess I'll take the Raiders, who somehow, if they win this game, are over 500.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take the Raiders as well. I mean, they still do have weapons out there. Brian Hoyer, he's a veteran in this league. I would have loved to see O'Connell. I actually do love him. But I think the Raiders just have a little bit more to work with aside from the Bears. So I'm in agreement with you on this one. Raiders.
Okay. I'm trying to look at the game status real quick for the next game. And I do not see the Cleveland quarterback. Oh, there he is on it. He's listed as questionable. So that gets us to Browns and Colts, where Deshaun Watson is questionable. He's a full participant today in practice. Of course, Gardner Minshew starting for the foreseeable future for the Colts. Cleveland 3.5-point favorites with that nasty defense on the road.
I don't know which way to go because the way Gardner played last week against the Jags, I can only imagine what that Cleveland front is going to do to him. So I'm going to go with the Colts. They're at home. I talked to Z earlier today. He's looking at this matchup, him versus Myles Garrett. I like my man to go out there and prevail. Let's go Z4.
This frees me to do what I want to do with my heart and not make the pick that my head wants to. The Browns are probably going to win the football game.
Okay.
But I, whenever possible, will not pick Deshaun Watson.
Nope. And the one time you did, you lost, right?
That is also true. So, let's go Colts! Let's go Colts! Let's go Colts!
For the shoe, baby!
For the shoe. Emphasis on 4. Zaire, please make this happen.
Yes.
Please take all of my anger and angst at Deshaun Watson. Funnel and channel it. And the Browns organization for giving him all that money.
Yep.
Channel it into Zaire Franklin. And like Dragon Ball Z style, just boom, unleash it on him this weekend. Please, by all means, Zaire, just go nuts, kid. Let's go Colts. I'm so glad that you did that because I did not want to have to pick the Browns. But I'm not going to be wrong. At least where it's going to cost me a game. Bills and Patriots. Patriots are 1-5. They are at home. Josh Allen and company trying to kind of get back on the right track. Funky game last week that they ultimately win against the Giants. Obviously a bad showing in London the week before. They are 4-2, though, and 8-point favorites on the road.
I think I would be a fool to ever pick the Patriots right now. So
yeah, it does feel that way.
Yeah, just right now, though. Maybe in a year or two, I'll go back to, possibly picking the Patriots and it actually being a competitive game. But I don't see this being that. I think the Bills defense, they're going to rattle Mac Jones. He's going to continue to play poorly. And I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a Bailey Zappi showing.
Yeah, no, I'm not shocked at all if that happens at this point. Although the Bills' defense is just not the same because they don't have Matt Milano anymore.
Yeah.
They don't have some of their other pieces. They've been super banged up. So
Ed Oliver, he's also injured, toe injury.
But sidebar, I feel like every other show did this week, and we just ignored it because I think it's kind of silly, but we'll do it quickly here. If Belichick's available, are you interested for the Commanders if there's an opening here?
Yes, I'm interested, but we got to keep EB. I don't think he stays long because he does want a head coaching job, but yes. I can't say no because he's Bill Belichick, but I'd really rather go a younger route. Like, I'd just rather, like, if you tell me I can have, and I know this is crazy, if I can have Johnson from Detroit, who I think is like the next young guy, hotshot head coach, and I think he's probably pretty good, or I can have Belichick at this stage in their lives, I think I'd rather have Johnson. I think Bill Belichick could really take this defense to the next level.
I mean, he obviously could. And the other thing, too, is like from an organizational standpoint that's trying to rebuild.
Yep.
But is it too, like, what does he bring that then carries over long term? I mean, it'd be a heck of a learning experience for Josh Harris to be around Belichick. And then, everyone else kind of gets to be like, hey, you're doing that. But I don't know. Like, Belichick hasn't been good for a couple years. Like, you still can put together a heck of a game plan. Like, he's forgot more football than, the both of us will ever know combined. Yep. All that stuff. But, like, look at the situation he's gotten them in. And he's probably going to want personnel control, and he's going to want all this stuff, and I just think it's a bad idea. So, yeah, I said it. No, that's crazy. But anyway, the point is the Bills are going to win the game. Yes. Commanders and Giants. Let's go ahead and winner-wise pick this now. We'll give our scores later, Anthony. I will go ahead and take Washington on the road. I know the Giants have been a pain in their side. I know that MetLife has been their personal house of horrors, but I do kind of believe in the EB effect, changing some of these trends. And I just genuinely think that the Giants' offensive line is not good enough to win an NFL football game against basically anybody right now. And that's part, missing on the scouting and missing on whatever, but it's also like they are so banged up. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm going with the Commanders. I think this is the game. You got to go in there. You got to win. And, we haven't had the best of luck in New York. I want to say, like, since our Super Bowl time, we haven't won that many matchups up there. So hopefully we get one.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice. If not now, then when? Falcons and Buccaneers. Sneaky good game in the NFC South. Bucs trying to get back to where they were a couple weeks ago. Falcons obviously coming off the loss to the Commanders. They haven't won a game on the road this year. And it really comes down to, like, can Tampa do defensively what Washington was able to do last week, which is shut down the run, make them one-dimensional, make Ritter beat you, and know that he probably can't. That's the question. I don't know. Do you have strong feelings either way?
I don't
either. I'm trying to look up some defensive stats real quick on the old Buccaneers. I don't feel like that run offense is going to be kept down 2 weeks in a row, but picking like Desmond Ritter on the road feels extra stupid.
Yeah, to be honest, I was expecting to see, some Taylor Heineke reports after the game Desmond Ritter just had. He'd give that offense a new little spark and definitely can, make some of the throws that Ritter isn't consistently making.
I mean, Ritter and Taylor are not that different.
Yeah, but
like good Taylor's obviously better than bad Ritter, but like can they get good Ritter? I'm taking the Bucs. Like they've been good. They're top 10 against the run. I'm just taking Tampa. They're the home team. I'm not going to overthink it.
I'm right there with you.
Well, I'll put the Bucs at 4-2, by the way.
Dang.
That got a full on Anthony Haney. Dang.
because
how is this game?
Baker Mayfield is their quarterback.
I know. This game at 1 o'clock I feel like this game should have been flexed to 4. I guess it's kind of a busy 4 o'clock schedule, and a lot of that is you got a bunch of West Coast teams playing. Lions and Ravens. Baltimore favored by 3 at home, starting to get a little bit healthier. Obviously, the Lions have been tremendous this year. They are 5-1. Anthony, who you got?
I said this yesterday. This is going to be a legitimate test for the Lions. You're buying them as, prime contenders in the NFC? Well, go out there and show us. Go out there and stop one of the, best quarterbacks in the league, in my opinion, in Lamar Jackson. You said they are getting healthy. I don't know, man. I really like how the Lions have played defensively. Offensively, I think it's going to be there. I'm going to take the Lions, surprisingly, because I still think Lamar's going to be an MVP favorite. I just don't think their offense has clicked so far, at all. So I like where the Lions are. I think they go on the road. I think they get it done, surprisingly.
This feels like the kind of game the Ravens win, which is why I'm leaning Baltimore.
Okay.
But
okay,
I'm trying not to fall victim to the thing that, we do, which is like just look at the name and not what's actually been happening on the field. The Lions are the better football team. They are on the road, but are they 6-1 good? I mean, the way they play this year, their offense is incredible, man.
Mm-hmm.
Screw it. I'm taking Detroit. They can go into Baltimore, they can put up points, and if they do, then everyone's going to be like, oh my God, and then they'll probably lose the next week because that's the NFL.
They get Jahmyr Gibbs back as well.
They do, although Dan Campbell was like, he's basically only playing because we need him to play, but we can't put too much on him. David Montgomery out. They're missing pieces, but they've been missing pieces all year, and they figure as long as Amon-Ra St. Brown's not one of the pieces, they're fine. Steelers and Rams. Rams only favored by 3 at home. That is a stinky, smelly line. That doesn't make any sense. Pittsburgh just also, isn't TJ Watt out? Or did he wind up being all right with that?
TJ Watt, whoa.
He missed earlier in the week with a heel issue. Let me look up that real quick. Obviously, Kyron Williams is out for LA. No, all right. TJ Watt's back good. He had DNP'd Thursday, full participant today, no game status. So he is good. Man, that is tough. This is where Sheehan's just knocking on my head going, hey, man, listen to Vegas. They're begging you to take the Rams. So take the Steelers.
So you're going with the Steelers?
I'm going to take the Steelers. I've no football reason. None whatsoever.
I'm going with the Rams. And Matthew Stafford, I trust. They don't have an answer. Not one. For Cooper Kupp or Puka. Yeah, I said it. Puka.
Here's the thing. They do. They have an answer for both those guys, and it's the same guys, TJ Watt.
Oh, okay.
If Matthew Stafford is dead, then it doesn't matter.
Well, guess what? From the Rams side of things, they have a guy named Aaron.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, and he's going to make...
Look, don't come to me for knowledge. Look, I am going pure stinky fish. There is no reason why the Rams should not be 4 or 5 point favorites at home. They're just getting the 3 points for being at home. By the way, the stadium's probably going to be full of Steelers fans, and the Rams are going to be on the snap count or on the quiet count. I got no football reasons for this.
This is going to be one of those games you win and I lose, and it's just because you always go with the stinky fish.
Yeah, it's does it pass the smell test? And I was, before I listened to Sheehan, because I was, I wasn't living in D.C. at the time. I used to listen to Van Pelt and Scott and, Kevin kind of, I don't know who came up with it first, but they've been doing this a long time, betting games and looking at the lines and being like, where's the public? Let me run away from them, fade the public. I'm just telling you, it makes no sense. And every weekend, we haven't had a 1-2-3 game yet.
Nope. Good.
And we've missed a couple of those.
We've missed a lot of them.
So it just, I got no rhyme. You want analysis? Go somewhere else. You want to pick? Give me the Steelers. Cardinals and Seahawks in Seattle. This is probably as close to a 1-2-3 as we're going to get on the weekend outside of Monday Night Football. Cardinals, obviously, just 1-5. They fight hard every single game. They are a pain in the butt to play. But I think at home in Seattle, I will take the Seahawks.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Seahawks. I expect Geno to bounce back after last week. That was terrible. Terrible. But, the Cardinals will not make it easy. So yeah.
No, they won't. Packers and Broncos. Broncos fought hard last week. Last week was like the first time you're like, there's a little bit of fight left in this team. They're trying to, trade off pieces that they don't like. They're a mess. Green Bay, super duper hit or miss with Jordan Love. That's the life with a young quarterback. I will take Green Bay, though, on the road. They're favored by 1. I'll take them on the road at Denver.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Packers as well, coming off the bye. I had a chance to give Aaron Jones some time to get healthy. Yeah, I can't go with the Broncos. They're that bad. I can't even.
They're
consider
unpickable.
It. Yeah,
they're unpickable. Chargers and Chiefs at Arrowhead.
Great one.
This should be a fun one.
Great one.
This feels like a game where the Chiefs, who are great in close games, figure out how to pull one out and snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, where the Chargers are specialists and have been for 2 decades at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. I'll take Kansas City at home. They're 5.5-point favorites, which feels a little big. Like, I would take the Chargers to cover that 5.5, but I'll take the Chiefs for the win.
This one it's tough. I really want to lean the Chiefs, but I want to go with Herbert. I think tough loss last week. Brandon Staley has to figure out these one-score losses. He can't quite figure it out. To be honest, I think I'm going to go with the Chiefs. It's going to be a one-score game. The Chargers are going to come up short again. I'm going with the Chiefs.
This man really just ran circles around himself to wind up on my analysis. That is what just happened. All right, Dolphins and Eagles, Sunday Night Football. This is going to be a good one. I saw a promo for it the other day. We were watching, we were watching The Voice on NBC, and I saw a promo, and I looked at Rachel and was like, I think we're going to watch Sunday Night Football this week. Dolphins and Eagles. Tua's almost got 2,000 already on the year. He'll probably cross that in this game. Mm-hmm. Like, Tyreek's at 800 already on the year. He could push 2,000 receiving, which is nuts. Eagles, obviously, coming off their loss to the Jets. They want to bounce back. They are at home. Dolphins, number 1 offense in the league, averaging nearly 500 yards per game. And I think they've got too much. Like, I genuinely think, even for the Eagles, the Dolphins have too much firepower. Eagles will try to control the tempo of the game. They'll try to run it like crazy. They'll try to slow the game down. But remember, Philly's back end is banged up. And so with that, I think Tyreek and company will get loose. And I think the Dolphins might be the best team in football. I know they had the one loss, but give me Miami on the road.
I think I'm gonna go with the Dolphins as well, and it's because of the injuries to the Eagles right now. They're missing two of their key defensive backs. Devontae also was limited with a hamstring injury.
Not great.
So things aren't looking up for the Eagles right now. So I think I'm gonna go with the Dolphins to exploit, some of their weaknesses.
What was I gonna say? I forgot. Ticket prices for this game, by the way, according to ESPN.com, whatever ticket broker they are linked to, tickets as low as $228. That's so $228 to get in the door at the link this weekend. What do you mean that's it?
I'm joking. Good gracious.
Like, what are you getting paid? 49ers and Vikings in Minnesota. Oh, man. Kirk is not going to be happy to see Kyle on this one. This is close to a 1-2-3 as we got. But then again, we did it last week, and what happened? The Browns beat the 49ers. Even though we were respectful, but it was like they don't have an offense, and then the Browns did it. This is very, very different. The Vikings don't have their offense. It's Justin Jefferson. He and his hamstring out. And they don't really have a defense because they're just bad at that. I think San Francisco's winning the football game.
Yeah, this is a no-brainer. I would love to see Brock Purdy, play better this week. Too many people are coming out of the woodwork saying, "Oh, Purdy's this, Purdy's that." Purdy is a good quarterback. I don't know why people are down on him because he had one bad game. Those happen.
Because they are the same people that thought he wasn't that good coming out, and they want to be right.
Yeah.
They're bad. People are bad at taking in new information.
Yeah.
Bye-week teams: Bengals, Cowboys, Titans, Jets, Panthers, Texans. Set your fantasy football lineups accordingly. That's our trip around the NFL. We make it every Friday at 5:30. Our pick 6 at 6. Which 6 commanders will have the biggest impact on the game on Sunday? That's next on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. And always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Mr. Fortier, how are you, and are you using the headphones that I sent you?
I am using the headphones that you send me, so I'll not be pulled over. And I got to tell you, man, seeing the craziness coming out of Chicago today with the Justin Fields comment, with the DC abruptly resigning, it's just like giving me flashbacks to what this team used to be like. And I'm like, wow, I'm talking about football in a stadium? That feels odd.
Right. One, God, this call quality is just exceptional. So just, I got to say, I'm going to send you a clip later just so you can hear how clear you are. Two, we actually, so earlier in the show, we did a segment called This, That, and the Other Thing, and we wound up putting the Bears stuff in that. And yeah, it felt very oddly familiar, but also safely distant, which I think is good. All right, we got a lot to get to and not a lot of time. So first, let's...
James Smith-Williams just pulled up and honked at me. I'm on the radio with Craig Hoffman right now. Do you want to say something?
What's up, James?
How you doing, man?
What's up, James? Although you probably can't hear it because this is just in Sam's headphones.
Quick. Craig, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Feeling good. Just talking to Sam. Last time we did a hit with Sam, he put Matt Paris and Ben Standing on, so this is an upgrade.
Way better. Yeah, way better.
Yeah.
Definitely an upgrade.
All right, let's make sure nobody gets in trouble here. All right, James, drive home safely.
Thank you. You have a good one.
All right, goodbye. James Smith-Williams, everybody. I mean, that's been an ongoing bit.
Oh, okay.
I think Travis Kelce's got the best bit of all. He's just dating Taylor Swift. So, forget the lyrics. and then we got our guy Ian Eagle talking about Travis Kelce finding blank space in the end zone. Now, that's how you do it. By the way, I did follow up. For those of you that listened to the end of the show on Monday, we said we're going to have to investigate. Was that, did Noah Eagle feed Ian, his dad, the lyric? I texted Ian, and I was like, we might have to have you on the show to do this. And he's like, there's nothing to investigate. I'm just a Swiftie.
Ooh, okay.
And I was like, oh, well, there goes the segment idea, Ian.
Did you see Jason Kelce confirm the rumors, though?
Yes, he kind of did on WIP today, which is very silly. Jason, your podcast is very good and very successful. If you're going to confirm the biggest rumor in the celebrity world,
exactly,
don't do it on, do it on a radio show, obviously. Don't do it on a radio show. Do it on your own podcast, you moron. I'm just kidding, Jason. You're definitely not a moron. Jason Kelce, not a moron. It was just not the, why am I doing, let's keep going with the comments. We have a new submission to the Real Things Hall of Fame. The F-35 is a fighter jet that the military has. It is very expensive. Very expensive. The F-35 program costs the U.S. government / the military over $1 trillion. This is one of the most expensive things in the U.S. government's budget is the program that makes these planes. Each one is incredibly valuable and expensive. And something happened during a training mission, but this jet leaves, they go on a training mission,
and it's in stealth mode apparently, and the pilot has to eject. So the pilot's like, I'm up out of here. Pilot lands relatively safely, has, I think, an injury or two that has to be tended to, but, like, is alive. But then they lost the jet. So the jet disappeared from the radar. The U.S. government's like, well, we don't know where the jet is. And so the Buford, like, which is the suburb not suburb, it's in South Carolina. It's by Charleston. Close enough. If people are actually from there and don't want to say that and want to say it's by Hilton Head, I know I grew up in the state. Leave my geography alone for the sake of the story, which I've now made less efficient by telling you all of those things because I can't help myself. Talk about a plane crash. Hey, we're back. So the F-35 gets essentially lost, and they're like, I don't know where this very expensive warplane went. And lo and behold, sometime the next day or later that day, it crashes somewhere, and luckily no one's hurt. But this $100 million plane is gone. Whoopsies. We crashed the plane. And this is an eyewitness account from a Charleston area television station of someone who heard the crash.
In the bathroom taking a shave, and I heard a screeching, solid between a screech and a whistle. I said, what in the world is this? And I heard a boom. Then my whole house shook.
White says he didn't realize it was a plane at the time, so he didn't call anybody.
The first thought came to me, I said, my sports should have meteorite come out of space or something. And I said, well, if the airplane, it needed to be reported, but the thing was flying this too low.
The F-35B airplane wreckage created an extensive debris field.
That voice, we gotta get a drop for the voice because it might be better than Steph Curry's.
I was gonna say, I feel like we have to do a comparison. Can I pull this off with? Yeah, okay. So I had to compare or see if I had enough channels on the board to do this. But we got Steph Curry here. We got Charlie Brown here. And we got our mans here.
His is better, though.
I think his is the best one. His is definitely, like, it's not quite Charlie Brown. It's definitely close to Steph Curry, though.
Yes.
We'll see you tomorrow.
The Hoffman Show on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. Dave Johnson joins us from Toronto in a few minutes for preview of tonight's game and a recap of our first pool party. Yeah, Jordan Poole was awesome the other night. We'll get the insight from Dave on what it was like to call that from his seat. But right now it is time for our Pick 6 on a Friday. Maybe. Anthony is just having a
The 6 biggest Commander storylines. Delivered at 6 o'clock sharp. It's the Pick 6 at 6.
I'm going to be their biggest and harshest critic, but I'm also their #1 fan.
All right, let's hit it. 6 Commanders players that we think are going to have a monster impact on Sunday. The biggest impact on Sunday on a win or a loss. Haney, get us started.
Number 1.
Number 1, I'm going with Cody Barton.
Good pick.
We talked about it earlier today. You know, he had arguably his best game against the Falcons. I think PFF graded him like the 4th highest on the team. So I want to see, him duplicate that performance, go out there, play fast, be confident in, everything in your assignments, and just be impactful. And I think the first 5 games of the season, we saw him playing a step slow, not being reactive and things of that nature. So I'm expecting another good game and bounce back game from Cody Barton.
Yeah, I mean, if he just continues to grow, he's starting to figure out how to fit those runs behind those linemen, and that's really tough. Like when you've got linemen like Deron Payne, for instance, who tend to freelance a little bit in the run game. Like they'll shoot the gap, and it's because Deron Payne then gets to make those Deron Payne plays. But if he shoots and he misses, now Cody Barton's got to figure out where he's supposed to be. And it took a little bit to kind of understand when Payne's going to go, when he's not, when Allen's going to go, when he's not. John does the same thing. Obviously, we know Chase and Montez do that. Chase is more of a reputation for freelancing as a pass rusher, but they all do it. And that's part of being a great player is you do things that are outside of the scheme because the scheme can't account for your individual greatness. And it's tough on sometimes the other players if they don't really understand when, why, how you're doing certain things. And Barton has gotten progressively better. A lot of plays at or behind the line of scrimmage last week. He's got to continue to do that. And if he can, as you said this week, and no big coverage bust, because also he'll probably have responsibilities at times on Barkley and at times on Darren Waller, then this Commanders defense should be in pretty good shape.
Number 2.
Nick Gates. This should have been number 1, Anthony. I'm happy that you saved it for me, though, so thank you. Blessings. I opened the show talking about how important Nick Gates is today, this Sunday, because he's the guy who makes the line calls. And against a Wink Martindale defense, one he's familiar with from all those training camp and practice sessions when he was with the Giants, if he can get it right and eliminate the free runners and the free blitzers, then Sam Howell can get back there and dice up this Giants defense pretty good in the same way that he's diced up some other defenses when he's had time, which has been most weeks. Obviously you'd hope that he also is kind of being able to read things out a little bit better, a little more faster. And Sam, I think the best way to phrase it is Sam can continue to go on his growth curve where there's a lot of good and this one nagging thing where he gets a Buffalo game type of situation is if they can't identify the blitzers. In that game, there was a little bit of everything. There was the usual Sam's going to take a couple of sacks because that's where he is. And there's also the offensive line actually giving up some pressure. Or the protection giving up pressure because sometimes it's your tight ends and your running backs as well. Gates is the guy who makes the calls. Gates is Sam Howell's best friend, not just in making sure that big Leonard Williams, and by the way, that's another part that I didn't even talk about earlier. Leonard Williams plays a true nose, meaning he's heads up, face mask to face mask on Nick Gates, and Nick Gates is going to get a lot more one-on-one work than he would most time where he's kind of a helper or part of a double team on some one technique or maybe he slides over and helps against a 3 technique, those defensive tackles. He's got a nose tackle in front of him. So how does he play against that? How does he get everyone lined up and targeted correctly, run game, and obviously in pass protection? Nick Gates, super duper mega important this weekend.
I'm definitely looking forward to those inside zone runs behind Nick Gates.
If I showed you 4 runs, Anthony, would you be able to tell the difference between inside zone, duo, counter, and power?
Quick question, though. Most of the runs that I'm talking about come from the shotgun position.
Yeah.
Are you still able to run, would you say, duo?
Yes. Duo, power. Counter. Yeah, you can run all that stuff from the gun. It's not as effective oftentimes for reasons that Logan can explain better than I can.
Yeah.
Really, it's an angles thing. But yeah, you can run all that stuff from gun. And they do. Sometimes poorly.
Number 3.
Yeah, just not as effective as we like. But number 3, Craig, I'm going to go with Terry McLaurin. I think last game we saw him get involved early and often. And quite frankly, Terry, he's performed well against the Giants. He's had some monstrous games against the Giants, and I think this is another chance for him to go out there and, be great. Everybody's been clamoring for, somebody to go out there and make the plays that we need. And I think Terry, he's going to see a lot of one-on-one, a decent amount of it anyway. And he's going to have a chance to, get off against Adoree Jackson or the rookie Banks. So I'm expecting another big outing from Terry McLaurin. And he just got to win quick. EB talked about it early. And early this week, and I think Terry is more than capable of winning early and often.
Terry understands that at a really high level. Like, I'm going to get out. I got heavy hands. When EB talks about, like, winning at the point of contact and the hand fighting or at the top of routes and the hand fighting, like, Terry's got heavy hands. Like, you go out to training camp and you watch Terry run a route, you can listen, and you hear him get out, and it's bam at the top. There's just a wallop at the top of the route where he'll throw a DB and create separation that way, and he's good about doing it in ways that are, I'm going to call them legal enough to get away with it. Jahan has not learned that level of urgency yet, and it's part of the reason that he has struggled to grow from year 1 to year 2, despite all of his route running ability, all of his route running talent, his hands, his everything that he's got going for him, which is why I think a lot of us thought he'd have a bigger year production-wise so far. The one thing that I thought that EB did really well last week too in regards to Terry is intentionally getting him involved early. Yep. Hey, we're gonna put you in this spot. We're gonna get you a nice little quick, easy sit route or a snag route, like one of these little short 5-yard somethings that's pretty much guaranteed that you get the football, or like a shallow cross where it's pretty guaranteed that you're gonna get the ball. Yep. I love that, and I would like to see him do that for Jahan, frankly, as well. See if you can get him a little more involved in the game early, and then see if you can sustain that over the course of 60 minutes. Another guy, though, I think is going to be really important as a pass catcher, and that brings us to Anthony's
I'm sorry. The computer
hotkeys
isn't. Yeah.
Not working either? You have the numbers on the hotkeys? Screw it. We don't have time. Number 4, Logan Thomas. Logan is going to be an important outlet when the Giants blitz. Like, when you're the guy closest to the ball, you're the easiest guy to throw to. Like, it's that simple. So I think it's one thing that EB can do is kind of get Jahan and Terry in some of these tighter bunch formations and get them close to the ball, make it easy for Sam to find them if there's pressure. But Logan becomes a super important outlet. He's also going to be important in pass protection. He's the best two-way guy they have. And there's going to be times where you slide one way, and you're going to have to block Kayvon Thibodeau one-on-one as the tight end. Is that ideal? No, but it's better than the alternative, which is, you got mismatches in other places and free runners. So, would you rather have a free runner, but the tackle gets him, and then there's no one to block someone else, or would you rather have tight end one-on-one with the defensive end? You just take the matchup and do the best you can. So it's going to be really, really important for Logan Thomas to have a good game, both facets this weekend. So Logan Thomas is number 4.
Number 5. we don't have a computer right now or the hotkeys. We're working with
the technology. Quiet quit us on a Friday.
Yeah, sadly. But number 5, I'm gonna go with Casey Tuhill. We saw him last week really show out. He had 2 sacks, and I think you've been the person that's been suggesting we don't need to give, Chase Young 90, 85% of the snaps. We have some serviceable backups, James Smith-Williams, Casey Tuhill, Efe Obada. Let's get those guys some reps. And we've seen what a fresh Casey Tuhill can do. He went in there, got 2 sacks right off the back. So I think just being able to, trust in the depth of this line, of the defensive line, and, capitalizing on all of your opportunities. I think Casey's done a phenomenal job doing that. We've seen Chase close, but maybe fatigue has been a factor, or I'm not sure. But, if we take away some of, Chase's reps and allow Casey and James Smith-Williams to get in there a little bit more, I think we'll see a little bit more impact from the defensive line.
I think this is a great call because Casey in particular is so good on the edge. As like James sets a really great edge against the run, and he will scramble a quarterback pretty well and to be super disruptive on boot against the pass. Casey's just a little bit faster, and so against some of that boot action, he can actually run the quarterback down. Mm-hmm. Or as an edge setter in the run, he's just really hard to get around because he's so fast. And you saw that last week. Ritter tried to get the edge on him, and how often do you see guys, and James had this happen to him a bunch, where you're just outside the quarterback's hands and he throws the ball away. Yep. Ritter thought that's what was going to happen, and then Tuhill brought him down. And whether it's Tyrod or whether it's Daniel Jones, that is part of they're a big play action boot team especially behind this O-line, because they're going to be trying to move the pocket and do all this stuff. Casey's really good with that stuff, and so I would definitely like to see more snaps from him this week. And last but not least, do we even try it, Anthony? Nope. Number 6. Quan Martin. I think this is a big Buffalo nickel game. I think they're going to have the 3 safeties on the field a lot. And whether you're guarding Waller, whether you're guarding Barkley in coverage, whether in man or they wind up in your zones, obviously in run support, it's super important that Quan doesn't get taken advantage of as a younger player in this defense. It looks like Emmanuel Forbes probably is not going to be playing a ton because Kendall Fuller is good to go, but we'll see if they sub that back out. But Quan Martin, because of where he plays, I think is going to have a much heavier snap count this week against the Giants personnel, and is going to need to be pretty key and clutch for the Commanders on Sunday. That is our pick 6 at 6. Dave Johnson joins us from Toronto to preview the Wizards game and talk about calling his first pool party next here on The Hoffman Show.
Fortier, how are you, and are you using the headphones that I sent you?
I am using the headphones that you sent me, so I'll not be pulled over. And I got to tell you, man, seeing the craziness coming out of Chicago today with the Justin Fields comment, with the DC abruptly resigning, it's just like giving me flashbacks to what this team used to be like. And I'm like, wow, I'm talking about football in a stadium? That feels odd.
Right. One, God, this call quality is just exceptional. So just, I got to say, I'm going to send you a clip later just so you can hear how clear you are. 2, we actually, so earlier in the show, we did a segment called This, That, and the Other Thing, and we wound up putting the Bears stuff in that. And yeah, it felt very oddly familiar, but also safely distant, which I think is good. All right, we got a lot to get to and not a lot of time. So first, let's...
Yes. James Smith-Williams just pulled up and honked at me. I'm on the radio with Craig Hoffman right now. Do you want to say something?
What's up, James?
How you doing, man?
What's up, James? Although you probably can't hear it because this is just in Sam's headphones.
Quick. Craig, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Feeling good. Just talking to Sam. Last time we did a hit with Sam, he put Matt Paris and Ben Standing on, so this is an upgrade.
Way better. Yeah, way better.
Yeah.
Definitely an upgrade.
All right, let's make sure nobody gets in trouble here. All right, James, drive home safely.
Thank you. You have a good one.
All right, goodbye. James Smith-Williams, everybody. I mean, that's been an ongoing bit.
Oh, okay.
I think Travis Kelce's got the best bit of all. He's just dating Taylor Swift. So, forget the lyrics. And then we got our guy, Ian Eagle, talking about Travis Kelce finding blank space in the end zone. Now, that's how you do it. By the way, I did follow up. For those of you that listened to the end of the show on Monday, we said we're going to have to investigate. Was that, did Noah Eagle feed Ian, his dad, the lyric? I texted Ian, and I was like, we might have to have you on the show to do this. And he's like, there's nothing to investigate. I'm just a Swiftie.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, oh, well, there goes the segment idea, Ian.
Did you see Jason Kelce confirm the rumors, though?
Yes, he kind of did on WIP today, which is very silly. Jason, your podcast is very good and very successful. If you're going to confirm the biggest rumor in the celebrity world.
Exactly.
Don't do it on, do it on a radio show, obviously. Don't do it on a radio show. Do it on your own podcast, you moron. I'm just kidding, Jason. You're definitely not a moron. Jason Kelce, not a moron. It was just not why am I doing... Let's keep going with the comments.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app.
WNBA champ Alysha Clark joins us coming up at 6:30. But right now we head to Toronto. Check in with our guy, Dave Johnson, play-by-play voice of the Wizards here on the Team 980, who you'll be hearing from an hour from now for the pregame show. Dave, how is Toronto?
Yeah, Toronto is great, and actually it's a very pretty city. It's one of North America's most beautiful cities. As somebody once said, Toronto is like New York, but organized by the Swiss. In other words, it's got the panache of New York, but it is organized and a little more orderly, shall we say, than New York. But now I'm going to get New Yorkers mad at me.
They're already mad at everything anyway, so it's fine.
That's what I'm right. But it's Toronto's a big city. It's like a New York size, but yet it's organized by the Swiss. Let's just put it that way.
I like that.
It's one of my favorite places to come.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy is Megan McPeak to be home?
Well, actually, I'm looking at her right now, and I think she's happy. In fact, she's going to, not to give away her travel schedule, but she's actually going to spend some time because she is from, as you mentioned, Toronto, and going to spend some time up here on the weekend because after tonight, we don't play again until we open it up for real Wednesday against the Indiana Pacers. And if I had a place to stay in Toronto, I'd probably stay for the weekend. But, yeah, I ended up binge watching a show earlier today about border agents, and now I'm going to claim everything because they're not joking around. If this is the lesson to all your listeners. It's a public service lesson of the portion of the Hoffman show.
Okay.
If you're traveling, because we all get those customs cards, and we all say no to everything, and we all say we don't have anything, and even though we were away for 3 months, somehow we have no. But claim it, because otherwise you're going to end up on some reality show.
Oh, okay.
Just a word of advice.
That's not the reality show that anyone wants to be on. So
no, you don't want to end up on customs and border agents.
Got it. Got it. All right, Dave Johnson, play-by-play voice of the Wizards, with us here on the Team 980. You got to call your first official pool. I guess it's an unofficial because it's preseason, but you got to call the pool party the other night. What was it like for you from your seat to see Jordan Poole heat up and keep heating up and just keep going at Madison Square Garden en route to 41 and a Wizards win?
Well, you realize that all great scorers, what do? They find ways to get to the free throw line. So yeah, he's got tremendous range. He can make 3-pointers and this and that and all that sexy stuff. But he got to the free throw line 16 times. So that's how you get to 41 points in this league. You make the defense make bad decisions, and that puts him in the quality of a great scorer. So that's part of what we're excited about this season is that. How's Jordan Poole going to develop with the Wizards, as we've talked about? And again, Mike Muscala showed that, he's a veteran that's I don't know how long he's going to be with the Wizards, but we know he's a coveted player in this league because he can be a stretch five. And he turned the game around Wednesday night, when all of a sudden he comes off the bench and he goes 5 for 5 from 3-point distance. And that just seemed to unleash everything. So, it's, as I said, there's no shortage of storylines on this team, but Jordan Poole, it's just fun to watch him on our side because we witnessed glimpses as he's in the shadow of greatness at Golden State. And now we're getting the full picture.
My big question for the preseason was, how does this team defend? Like, we know they've got scorers. They've got Gallo. They've got JP, obviously. They've got Kuz. They don't have a ton of players that are known as individually as great defenders, and certainly guys that have a lot of guys that haven't been part of, like, really great defensive teams. So as you've watched this preseason come together, whether it's lineup combinations, whether it's something that Wes has implemented schematically, like, what have you made of the defense through really the two, obviously, main preseason games, 3 overall, counting the win over the Australian team?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it's hard to get a sample because every team is playing so many, lineup combinations. But I will say that the other night, watching the game against the New York Knicks, it reminded me that we really do need to appreciate what a good defender, Denny Avdia is. And we said that from his rookie year. He was getting tough assignments. He's gotten tough assignments throughout his young career. And, he's been successful against guys like Giannis. Now, successful means you hold Giannis to 25 points. But, the other night, his defense, it won't show up in the stat sheet, but force some of those turnovers because he forced the Knicks into bad decisions. So, that's encouraging to see that continue to develop. Bilal Coulibaly is a defensive-ready rookie. The 10 steals through 3 games, and I know one, as you mentioned, against an Australian team, but it's no accident. He had 4 steals against the Hornets. So, this team is going to have to be collectively sound on defense. You'll hear Wes Unseld Jr. in our pregame show. It's that old saying about the communication needs to get better, and that's part of communications. It's not just you're saying, well, wait a minute, these guys, why can't they talk? It's the ability to recognize things at lightning speed and then communicate that. And that's why it's a little more tricky. When you really listen, but especially when you sit up close to an NBA game and it's a 24-second clock, everything is done so fast. And so, the offense is trying to move fast. That means the defense has to match it and, has to communicate in real time. And so that's, look, this is, we're not pointing at anybody that's on this team that's, going to be a drop-dead rebounder or the best defensive player in the league. So it's going to have to be a collective effort. Having said that, a guy like Daniel Gafford, just his presence, we certainly saw with Kristaps Porzingis, just his presence as he learns to use his body more can make a difference on defense. So defense is always something that 30 teams in the NBA are talking about getting better. And so, that'll be a situation for the Wizards because, as you mentioned, and I think we've seen in a small sample size in the preseason, again, this is not a team that's going to find ways to score. Again, the Wizards put up 131. I don't care if it's only preseason against the New York Knicks without Kyle Kuzma. So that means you have some other scoring options.
No doubt. All right, last thing for Dave Johnson, who is in Toronto, ready to go an hour from now for the Raptors and Wizards preseason finale. What do we expect? What did Wes tell you, or what can you tell us about who's playing, who's not tonight, and how they're treating this final preseason game?
Well, again, I don't think Kyle Kuzma's not going to play. He's dealing with it's a right calf contusion, but he's gone through the shoot around, so I don't think it's going to be something just cross fingers that's going to linger into the regular season. But there's no need to play him tonight. I would, he's really done Wes has done a good job of integrating a lot of players. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little, shorter rotation tonight. It's not as NBA preseasons are not as defined as, NFL preseasons where, what is it? The third preseason game is really the dress rehearsal, and then the fourth is just, they play or whatever. So it's not that defined, but again, it starts for Wednesday on the road in Indiana. So they have to get closer to simulating what it's going to be like on Wednesday. And again, minus Kyle Kuzma tonight.
Yeah. All right, so we will talk to you then on Wednesday. Enjoy your time in Toronto, as sparse as it is. And then 7:15 tonight. Everyone should just keep listening. You get 15 minutes of Ashu and company on BetMGM, and then you get Dave and Glenn at 7:15. And then we will have Dave and Glenn 6:45 pregame for reals on Wednesday, following us here on the Hoffman Show. Dave, have a great call, and we will talk to you on Wednesday.
Look forward to it always. Look forward to a great season.
Yes, indeed. All right, Dave Johnson with us here on the Hoffman Show. When we get back, fresh off a WNBA championship, my good friend Alysha Clark joins us to wrap up the show here on the Hoffman Show, the Team 980, streaming live on YouTube and always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Washington.
Mr. Fortier, how are you, and are you using the headphones that I sent you?
I am using the headphones that you sent me, so I'll not be pulled over. And I got to tell you, man, seeing the craziness coming out of Chicago today with the Justin Fields comment, with the DC abruptly resigning, it's just like giving me flashbacks to what this team used to be like. And I'm like, wow, I'm talking about football in a stadium. That feels odd.
Right. One, God, this call quality is just exceptional. So just, I got to say, I'm going to send you a clip later just so you can hear how clear you are. Two, we actually, so earlier in the show, we did a segment called This, That, and the Other Thing, and we wound up putting the Bear stuff in that. And yeah, it felt very oddly familiar, but also safely distant, which I think is good. All right, we got a lot to get to and not a lot of time. So first, let's...
Yes. James Smith-Williams just pulled up and honked at me. I'm on the radio with Craig Hoffman right now. Do you want to say something?
What's up, James?
How you doing, man?
What's up, James? Although you probably can't hear it because this is just in Sam's headphones.
Quick. Craig, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Feeling good. Just talking to Sam. Last time we did a hit with Sam, he put Matt Paris and Ben Standing on, so this is an upgrade.
Way better. Yeah, way better.
Yeah.
Definitely an upgrade.
All right, let's make sure nobody gets in trouble here. All right, James, drive home safely.
Thank you. You have a good one.
All right, goodbye. James Smith-Williams, everybody. I mean, that's been an ongoing bit.
Oh, okay.
I think Travis Kelce's got the best bit of all. He's just dating Taylor Swift. So, forget the lyrics. And then we got our guy Ian Eagle talking about Travis Kelce finding blank space in the end zone. Now, that's how you do it. By the way, I did follow up. For those of you that listened to the end of the show on Monday, we said we're going to have to investigate. Was that, did Noah Eagle feed Ian, his dad, the lyric? I texted Ian. I was like, we might have to have you on the show to do this. And he's like, there's nothing to investigate. I'm just a Swiftie.
Ooh, okay.
And I was like, oh, well, there goes the segment idea, Ian.
Did you see Jason Kelce confirm the rumors, though?
Yes, he kind of did on WIP today, which is very silly. Jason, your podcast is very good and very successful. If you're going to confirm the biggest rumor in the celebrity world,
exactly,
don't do it on, do it on a radio show, obviously. Don't do it on a radio show. Do it on your own podcast, you moron. I'm just kidding, Jason. You're definitely not a moron. Jason Kelce, not a moron. It was just not the, why am I doing, let's keep going with the comments. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app and streaming on YouTube at the Team 980, where if you're watching, you see a 3-time WNBA champion, and that is definitively not me. It is my good friend Alysha Clark of the Las Vegas Aces. What's up, champ?
Oh, hey, Craig. I'm just trying to hydrate and stay alive out here.
Yeah, we played a nice little supercut of the press conference the other night, yesterday during the show. We do a segment at the end called Real Things, Real People Said into Real Microphones. And I was like, honestly, Anthony, my producer was like, we could just play the entire press conference. Do you remember the press conference?
Vaguely.
Vaguely? Because that's the thing people don't understand is go do the hardest workout of your life, then be handed a large bottle of champagne.
Yeah, and honestly, I was sober and up until that point, so it wasn't until as the press conference went on, later, and then once the press conference was over, that's where things get shaky. I was like, ugh.
Yeah. Everyone clearly had a great time, and if you forgot anything, Sid was rolling on it all. So there's
She recorded the longest live in Instagram history. I feel like they need to send her a trophy for that.
They should. Sydney actually won 2 titles the other night. No one else. The rest of y'all got 1. She got 2. Obviously, it was an incredible season for you guys, and as it wraps up in that final game, it comes with this last little piece of adversity. How does that final game stick out to you now? You think about it in the context of your season, where it's like, oh yeah, we're this super team allegedly. We can talk about that term and the weight that it carries, or not, and just say you're a super talented team, right? But you're a team that played 6 players most of the year. All of a sudden, you need to rely on depth. You need to step up from winning 6th Woman of the Year to being a starter. How does that final game fit in the context of your season?
I just feel like there was no other way that we were supposed to win other than in that fashion that we won in New York. And I mean, it's crazy because all the ups and downs of the season and everything we went through, all the adversity and, just distractions that were trying to come in left and right, the way that we were able to just quiet the noise and stay focused on what we were doing every single day and focus on one another is just a true testament to the character of this team and just the collective like tightness and togetherness of us because there was many times we could have went our separate ways all season and broke from different things that happened, but we didn't. We stayed together. We got even tighter, and in that moment when we needed like that collective togetherness, I mean, you saw it on full display in those, honestly, like the last quarter, but like in those last 8.8 seconds, like the collective togetherness that we had was, I mean, it was on full display. So it's pretty dope. It's exciting. And winning on the road, this was my first time ever being booed, winning a championship.
And for those that don't know, this is not just your third championship because you've won overseas multiple times. Like you're winning championships is what you do. This is the first. There was a first. We found a new thing.
Yeah. But somebody was like, welcome to New York. And I was like, you know what? I respect it. Like they ride for their teams and that's what they do. But it was a sweet feeling to be able to go on someone else's home court and take a championship because they took one on our court. And so for it to happen the way that it did and just being able to close out there was huge.
Alysha Clark, Las Vegas Aces, with us here on the Hoffman Show. So I had a nice hearty chuckle at the end of the first quarter because you guys are down 10 and you wound up doing the interview with Holly Rowe. And I was like, oh man, this is not looking good. Like the offense is suffering. Chelsea Gray's not out there. Like, oh my God. And then Holly goes, hey, what do you guys have to do? And you go, if we could just stop throwing the dang ball away. And I'm like, okay, I think they're probably going to be fine. But how do you collect yourselves, as players to get out there and actually stop doing that? Because it's the pressure of the moment. You don't have your point guard. Like, how do you actually, from a basketball standpoint, kind of get everybody's head right and stop cutting down the things that were costing you to that point?
Yeah, I mean, this was our first game without Chelsea. She's our leader. Obviously our point guard, like she orchestrates a lot of things we do offensively. So it was our first game without her in a big moment, so we had to work out the kinks a little bit and we knew that was going to come. But like I told Holly, like our turnovers were the right turnovers in the sense of like, we were trying to make the right play. We made the reads. It was just, we weren't executing our pass in that way. So, when those decisions happen, you kind of just like have to be a realist in that moment and having, again, somebody at the helm in Becky who's like, listen, I'll take those turnovers all day. Like you guys are trying to make the right play. We're trying to play the right way. That's fine. It kind of helps like calm you down. And two, it's like, we knew it was going to be an adjustment period without Chelsea. And so just reminding each other, like, okay, we see what's happening. We see where the looks are, like hone back in and now like, let's tighten up. And that's what we did. And so to be able to have a group of people that collectively understand what's happening in a moment, but then you have just those steady voices in the huddle coming from Chels on the floor, coming from me, whatever, coming from Becky, whomever, like everybody just having those calming voices and presence that people have been in these moments. I think it just kind of helps reassure you a little bit.
They did have some fun with you on the broadcast though. Ryan Rucco was like, I know Alysha said she's been in these moments in game 4 before, but she hasn't because she's only been a part of sweeps in the WNBA finals. So I guess in other places you've been a part of big game 4s, but never in the finals before. That was a new one for you. You just forgot that. Conveniently. It worked out.
Yeah, convenient. But I have been in game 4s other places.
There you go.
Not in the finals.
Take that, Rucco.
No, but that's great.
So defensively, obviously, has been your calling card since you got into the league. And, the job you did on Stewie was just incredible. There's also certainly when a player's that good, like there's an amount of luck where she's missing shots. All you could do is make it hard. And you hope that effort is rewarded with her missing. And that's what it was. As you're continuing to kind of play that game out, though, and she continues to try to find shots, they're difficult, but she keeps missing them. Like what's going through your head as that game progresses? Like, I'm sure there's got to be some small element of fear that you're trying to push down of like, is the law of averages about to come back and she's about to do something crazy? On the other hand, all you can do is keep doing what you're doing. So like, how do you continue to trust what you're doing? And also, how does the familiarity that you have from being your teammate so many years in Seattle help that?
Yeah, I mean, the whole part of defense is like you kind of play that cat and mouse game anyway. And for me, the thing I learned is like you're never going to hold anybody scoreless. Like, she's one of the best players in the world for a reason. But you play that game with her and making her looks tough. And if she hits some, cool, you live with it. And when they do, you're like, all right, I did my part. But to be able to be in that space, like, there was nothing in my mind where I was like, oh, I'm nervous she's going to get going, just because I trusted my work. I trusted my process of preparing for this series, preparing for this game. I knew she's going to hit some. Like, that's what she does. You know what I mean? Like, that's why she's at, who she is. those are the type of shots that those types of players hit. But as a defender on these elite players, it's just like, you make their looks tough. And if they hit some, cool, you live with it. They're going to beat you doing B and C. They're going to beat you doing C and D options, not A and B. And that's what I lived with. And it was like, coming down the stretch in those final moments, like, all I had to do was rely on what I've been doing. And it's like, you prepared for this, the things that she likes, doesn't like. You've studied, like, the amount of studying I do on players and opponents is sickening. Like, it's low-key obsessive. I know our assistant coach and Rich, I know they're so happy for the season to be over, because the things that I asked them to send me, the amount of film work is insane. But it's for moments like that. It's for moments in these games, in these series, that you work so hard for. And so I just hung my hat on that. And had she hit a shot and it said, the game they won and we had to go to game 5, I'm still walking away with my chest out, because I'm like, I made her work for everything she got tonight.
Speaking of players of that caliber, what's it like to just be able to give the ball to A'ja Wilson and get the hell out the way?
I've been fortunate enough to play alongside some amazing post players where that has been the thing. It's like, get the ball to them and move. And it's no different with A'ja. Her motor is so different. Oh my gosh, her motor is so different. And just her confidence, and like, she's a beast. And so it's like, here, go to work. You got a boo. Go ahead. I'm gonna sit over here. I'm gonna crash the old boards if it happens to go out, but go to work. But again, it's that trust in the process that we do throughout the course of the season. Like, I've seen her working all the unseen hours people, don't get to see of her in the gym when we travel on the road. She's, finding a gym to go shoot in and stuff that people don't see. But that's what a lot of great and elite players do. It's so many unseen hours in the gym behind the scenes to shine in moments like that. And so when you have that type of player on your team as your franchise player, as your leader, as your go-to, doing those types of things, you trust it. Whether she's 4 for 16 or 10 for 16, every time she shoots, I'm like, oh, it's going in. Oh, this is a bucket. And when it doesn't, it's like, oh, I wasn't expecting that, just because I know
Right.
what she's capable of and what she's done.
Yeah, definitely. If you think back, I guess it's not really a year ago because of the way the WNBA calendar works, but 8 months ago, whatever it was, when you're getting ready to sign in Vegas, like, you certainly could have imagined that you'd end as a champion. That's part of the reason why you went there. The talent was overwhelming. But did you have any idea, like, what the group was like knowing just how fun they are? I'll use the word fun, how fun they are. Like, what kind of spirit, what kind of atmosphere it would be all year long and getting to this moment?
Yeah, I mean, as an opponent, like, you saw all the stuff they did, on social and whatever, and you're like looking at them like, wow, they're really having fun and they're winning. Like, what are they doing? Are they really this funny? Like, are they really this, like, genuine and authentic? There's always a little piece of doubt. But getting here, like, the first day of being here, there was zero doubt. The collective, like, the tightness of this group is insane. And we talk about it a lot throughout the season. It was like, imagine if there was like one person who didn't have a good sense of humor or couldn't take a joke or like was just like real whack. Like, it would mess up the entire like environment. But to be able to have a collective group of 11 people in a locker room that are so similar, and just like the way they approach every day, the understanding of like this platform that we have, it's for something so much bigger than just basketball. And we have that through everyone collectively, top to bottom. And it's so much fun. Like, this is the most fun I've had on a team. And I loved my championship teams in Seattle. Like, there's no doubt about it. But this group is so different and it's so much fun. Like, I've thoroughly enjoyed coming to work every single day and like working alongside them. And the work they put in, the intentionality behind everything that they do is I mean, top tier in my Asia Wilson voice. And it made, the way that we were able to close this season out, it made it that much sweeter. Yeah, I don't know if you've been on social media today, but everybody woke up on 10,000 a day.
It was wild. It's been a wild couple of days. That is for sure. The algorithm knows what we want in the Hoffman household. That is for sure. Last question for Alysha Clark, 3-time WNBA champion guard for the Las Vegas Aces. And of course, my dear friend, how do you mentally, physically, and emotionally prepare for this parade?
I'm double fisting.
She grabs her Gator Light for the radio audience that is not watching the video. Gator Light
water.
and water.
And water with natural electrolytes in it.
And
I'm going to electrolyte myself out and hydrate so I can be prepared because Asia said 8 shots in or you can't come. So I'm trying to figure out where throughout my day and how I can taper those off because I don't want to be the weakest link and I don't want to be a quitter. So
I mean, but also you do want to survive. Point, counterpoint.
I'm like, if I could survive All-Star Weekend in the fashion that I did, you remember?
I do.
I feel like I have I draw on that experience and now I'm already doing better. I'm running on 5 hours of sleep now, not 3.
Nice. That's an improvement.
And I'm hydrating to start my day.
Yeah.
So
you got a couple of days
learned.
too. Yeah, you got a couple of days too. Maybe a carb load in there. Just prepare extra naps.
I have been napping heavily.
Yeah.
Trying to at least. But listen, we're activated out here in Vegas. We are in these streets. We are gonna bingo and be outside.
Does anyone else join you guys for bingo?
Oh, we're having a team bingo night before we go out to the club tonight.
Rachel, we have to go back to Vegas.
Come back. I haven't won either. So you and I and Rachel, we're all still losers.
Oh man. Has Kia won?
Nope. Kia's lost too. She's a loser as well.
Okay. Good thing you won the important thing, that championship. There we go. Alysha Clark with us. I'm so proud of you, my friend. I love you very much. Congratulations. And thanks for giving us some time here on the radio show.
Of course. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
What's up, kiddos? It's your boy Clinton Yates from ESPN. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Tell your mama I said what's up.
Somehow I forget every week that this is going to happen. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. You miss any part of the show, you can rewind up to 24 hours and listen. Of course, Anthony works very hard on the podcast, so you could just do that. Have it nice and easy on demand as well on your favorite podcast platform. Our interviews with Damon Amendolara, Dave Johnson, Alysha Clark, any of our analysis from the Commanders-Giants game or about predicting the Commanders-Giants game, all available anytime, anywhere on those places, as well as you can rewind the live stream on YouTube at the Team 980. Got a couple of highlights I'm throwing up as well at Craig Hoffman on YouTube, so make sure you check us out there. Monday show, as always, don't be late. We will get things started with 10 observations from the game, 1st and 10, going deep on the biggest ones starting at 4 o'clock. We will have some take command for you. We will see how we did on the picks and the analysis, including the very, very intelligent, just take the Steelers because the line stinks pick. Anything else that we want to plug up for Monday, Anthony? Also, I guess next week, I don't know, we'll do this on Monday because we'll be recapping the game, but if you haven't heard our media day coverage yet from the Wizards, with the season finally getting going, we're going to bring back some of those interviews and actually play them for the first time on the radio. So Kyle Kuzma on the show next week. Corey Kispert was awesome. Wes Unseld Jr., so you'll get those scattered throughout the week next week as well. Anything else?
I think you took care of everything.
All right. Then I think it is time for Real Things Real People Said into real microphones.
Real things.
We're not going to be sucked this year.
Real people.
5-11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
All right, Anthony's in control on Fridays, so I know Andre Iguodala retired, and that's kind of going to take the center stage today, Anthony?
Yes, Andre Iguodala definitely did retire, and he spoke about why he retired.
All right, so last year and a year prior to, you pondered retirement. What made you finally go through with it?
Man, that stuff hurts. I think people don't realize like what your body goes through. Even the people closest to you, they don't even realize what our bodies are going through. Like, we be in pain, and they just looking at us like, he always hurt, or you always sore, or something always. And it's like, no, like, I need a new hip, I need 2 new knees, I need a new wrist now. I just thought it was time.
Yeah, that'll do it. That from the Point Forward podcast, the first voice you heard, Evan Turner, whose voice I always forget sounds like that. Now, Anthony, that made you, first of all, do you know who the oldest player in the NBA is now?
Currently?
Yeah, because Iggy's now retired.
LeBron James.
That is correct. LeBron James now officially the oldest player in the NBA. And he was probably drafted like 2 or 3 years before Iguodala, which is crazy. I think it was just a year. I think Iggy was 04 and LeBron was 03.
Yep.
But I wouldn't put my life on it. But this made you want to bring back a classic having to do with Andre Iguodala.
Yes.
Of everyone on Golden State, open shot, fate of the universe on the line, or the Martians have the death beam pointed at Earth, you better hit it. I want Iguodala. That's right. And I know what that sounds like. And it's not fair to Steph because so much defensive attention is paid to him. And I'm not saying Steph's not a better shooter. He's a way better shooter. Iguodala's got ice water in his veins.
Is it too harsh to say, and that's why Max Kellerman doesn't talk on TV about sports anymore?
That is brutal, Craig. That is brutal. But that take is Hall of Fame worthy. I think Andre Iguodala has had a Hall of Fame career, but I think that take right there is Hall of Fame worthy. Take it to the bank.
Hall of Fame? Sure. I mean, do you have just in the bad take swing?
Yes.
Good
Yes.
God. Some people try so hard. And Max Kellerman's a really smart guy. That was at the peak of their powers with Durant and Curry and Klay Thompson.
Yeah, a lot of star power. Klay Thompson, yeah, they just had too many shooters over there. And for you, granted, Iguodala hit some clutch shots, though. In his defense, he hit some clutch. But fate of the universe, I don't think I'm going with Iguodala.
Stephen. Actually, I don't know. Durant, man. Durant seems like he's immune to pressure. KD's just playing basketball at all times.
Is Klay Thompson hot?
I mean, if Klay Thompson's hot, there's no one in the history of the sport you'd rather have.
Yeah.
Clay's, what was it? The crazy scoring record. Was it 60 points and a half or something like that? No, it was 40 points in a quarter, or 37
in a quarter.
That's what it was. That quarter, he scored 37, and he dribbled the ball like 6 times.
Yeah, he doesn't dribble.
It was like literally just catch and shoot. I remember watching that back. I literally watched it back on League Pass. I was like, how did this happen? And you watch the game, and for the first like 10, or not 10 minutes, first like 6 minutes of the quarter, like he's hit a couple of shots. You're like, okay.
Yeah,
and then
chilling.
at like the 5:30 mark, he just loses his mind. But sure. Wow, what a pull, Anthony. What a pull. All right, I'll see you guys Sunday, Tab Sports Bar, MGM National Harbor for the Take Command pregame show. Until then, have a great weekend.